Right. Hello, everyone. I'm here with Vernaculus at the moment, but we will be joined by more people as and when they're ready. They've got the link, so it's just waiting for them to get in. And obviously, we're here to discuss the suspension of social justice in universities, pending an investigation into whether they are, in fact, the cults they appear to be. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Yeah, really well, really well.
Good, good.
I feel kind of hard fought though. I feel like I'm fighting a tough battle with libertarians at the moment.
Yeah, we're
Screaming
surrounded on all sides.
and I'm just like, okay, I'm not asking the government for anything, and the government already has control of universities. I mean, it's in Britain we've got a Department of Education that regulates education. So good, we should have, because then we can weed out horrible cults like social justice. So
Hmm.
I don't see the problem. I'm not even if I was asking for the government to do something, I'm not asking for new powers. I'm just asking to use the powers it already has for good. I don't see the
Yeah,
problem.
not even necessarily for good, but just to apply it consistently.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So,
exactly it. Yeah, I should. I was just
yeah.
talking subjectively there. Yeah,
No, I know.
yeah, but yeah, literally to apply that consistently, because that's what they would do if it was, say, I don't know, a right-wing neo-Nazi cult. They would do the same.
Yeah, if there was a course called, Genocide 101,
Yeah,
how to exterminate that pesky race you don't like.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
How there is a vast international Jewish conspiracy. I
yeah.
think they would regulate that. I think they would
Hmm.
at least check the facts of whether that's true or not before allowing students to take it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe I'm optimistic. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know.
But
I mean, if you have a bunch of students goose stepping out of your classroom,
yeah,
you might want to look into that. Maybe
yeah,
check out what the teacher's telling them.
yeah. And then literally, you've got them running around screaming, "We've got nothing to lose but our chains." Then, I mean, you've got to really ask yourself: Are they teaching you about Marxism, or are they teaching Marxism? You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. There's a difference between delivering facts on Marxism and creating more Marxists.
Yes, in the
You know,
same thing
because
as fascism. No one's coming out of school as a Nazi. You know?
yeah. Hmm. But I mean, there's a difference between learning uh, how Hitler came to power, and there's a difference. There's a separation between learning how Hitler came to power and how to be Hitler.
Basically, yeah,
Uh,
that's the point.
yeah,
Believing the ideology is correct.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Like that's. I think you were talking about that in a previous stream, sort of the historical context. You
yeah,
don't have to completely junk the idea. You don't have to make it wrong think. Just don't teach it as objective fact when it isn't objective fact.
yeah, and
So
and literally, so you can't sit there in their fucking classes and go, all white people are racist. Just
yeah,
absurd.
I
It's
mean, as a white person in that class who's not a racist, I know that they're wrong. That
yeah,
that's
exactly,
objectively wrong.
exactly. No, what you've just said there is factually incorrect because you're not psychic, and you haven't gone
Yeah,
around and read everyone's fucking mind. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's just lunacy. And then that's not even, the logical inconsistencies of almost everything is bizarre. But like, the facts themselves, the empirical data isn't true. The things that they're measuring, they're not right. And it's just like, okay, well, that in itself, is that not enough? You know, is
yeah. It's not like it's a theory that's currently being researched. It's demonstrably provably untrue, objectively untrue.
I can't understand why there is, and I can't understand why there's any objection to one of this.
Yeah,
Um,
and the libertarian argument is probably going to be like, why would you? It's obviously they believe taxation is theft.
yeah.
So what they're going to end up saying is they're going to end up treating the classroom like a public square when it's not a public square
Hmm.
in the slightest.
And people are paying for these courses.
Yeah.
And even then, cults are dangerous, man.
Hmm.
That we don't allow cults to propagate. They're dangerous. They're unhealthy for the people in them. They do damage to the people in them. They end really badly usually, and we don't allow cults. So this is not, like, again, this is not inconsistent. This is just, we don't allow this. Therefore, we should apply this to things that are cults,
Yeah.
and social justice freaking counts. I see King Crocodile has joined us and then disappeared.
Yeah. I don't. Maybe there was some technical difficulty, but I mean, look, I have no problem with. Well, obviously, I have a problem, but I have no legal problem with cultists spouting their nonsense, like in private settings. You
Sure.
know what? Go ahead, do that. I'm going to argue against it, whatever. but my tax money is being used on this. And to be honest, I don't think the majority of the population are these radical SJWs.
No, of course not.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so but not only that, I don't. You know, nothing like this should be spouted in an educational setting because it's educational.
Right.
You could have a church of social justice where people can go to be indoctrinated into social justice, like churches and mosques. Yeah. You go there to be indoctrinated into the religion. But literally, that's what this is. You know, this is not a factual educational thing. This is faith that is being taught. You know, there's a patriarchy that all, you know, white people do X, and you know, it's not educational.
Yeah, and even so, be honest about your mission statement. Yeah. If you're turning people into feminists, say this class will turn you into a feminist or teach you how to be a feminist. Not you'll learn about feminism. Because that's not what's going on. Yeah, they're not learning about it from an objective sense. They're learning about it like this is the instruction manual. Now go do it. And that kind of stuff.
Okay. So someone on Twitter has just messaged me. Solution: no public funding for uni. No, that's not a solution. That's a radical overhaul of an existing system that's going to affect millions of different people. That's not a solution to social justice. Is a cult, a factually incorrect cult. Teaching young people. No, you just stop the social justice. We can talk about whether uni should be state funded another day. That's not the solution that we're going to be anyone would even think of proposing for this issue.
These radical professors don't go away just because you've removed state funding.
Yeah.
They'll still teach the courses.
Yeah, they will still infringe on other people's rights.
It will just be privately funded. Do they think that private individuals do not private, like SJW individuals, do not have any sort of monetary resource they can draw from?
Yeah. I mean, they already
in order to do this.
Pay for your education in America and in Britain, so it's not like they're not also paying. This is the thing. It's the worst of all worlds that everyone's saying. It's like, oh, they've got one solution. No, fuck. There is no one solution, man.
Right.
You know, it's the. You know, the thing that we're going to have to do is look at these courses in detail, because the thing is, I was looking around, obviously, I want to see the extent of the fucking problem. You know, I was looking at various university websites, and there are ones where if you go through the course, it's legitimate, you know? These are genuine issues, and they're not screaming white supremacy, they're not screaming patriarchy, they're not screaming fucking you have no agency, they're saying there is a conflict. But the thing is, these are all things that I think everyone would agree are a bad thing and should be educated about, you know? They're not... You know, homelessness and stuff like this. It's not like, you know, white people are evil, and it's you know, and this is what people are like, well, you know, indirectly defending by like, oh, well, we should, you know, radically overhaul universities. It's like, no, we can do that when students aren't being A, ripped off, B, indoctrinated into a cult, and C, getting in my fucking face. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm going off on King Crocodile. How's it going, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very well.
On the same line, I was just looking through my university's course list right now, and we don't have a gender studies department. We have a full-blown feminist studies department. Okay. Let me tell you something that's very telling for me. So we have all of these different courses. We have global feminism / social justice. We have the dialogues. We have women film narratives, representatives and activism, sex, love, and romance, blah, blah, blah. Women in American history, queer theory. Okay, but when you get to things like feminist methodologies and feminist epistemologies, these are two different courses. These are the only two courses out of the entire catalog, both lower division and upper division, that is open only to feminist study majors. They don't seem to want to share their epistemologies or methodologies with anybody who is not part of the major already. I'm just wondering what the big secret is.
Well, that's exactly it, isn't it? You know, they don't want outside scrutiny. Why would they? You're a misogynist. That, you know, I imagine they probably think all men are misogynists. So what possible good would it be showing them? You know, it. So you're in agreement that these courses need investigation, yeah?
I'm in agreement that they need a serious reformation from what I can see. You know, I come from the physics department, so I'm pretty entrenched in like the positivist way of doing things, and they're very entrenched in this anti-positivist, this interpretivist methodology, which instead of drawing from the traditional way things are done with physics and chemistry and stuff, they use critical theory, and this is something that's based a lot on like interviews and personal lived experiences, and less trying to understand the circumstances of people's struggles and more trying to find meaning in people's struggles, which I think is completely misguided.
Yeah, I agree. I'm rather annoyed that there are people who are more concerned about like ancillary issues that are like overarching than dealing with this very self-evident problem. And this is the thing. A lot of people seem to be mistaking the idea of this petition for some further implication. I'm literally just trying to make them listen to people. That's what this petition is to do. This is what you think. These courses need to be reformed. They need to have the nonsense taken out and fucking empirical reality put back in. That would be a good start, anyway.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of oversight. I can tell you, at least at my university, I'm part of the UC system, so it's pretty bad for us. There is no oversight of these sort of human sciences departments. The chancellor, they can like sit in at the chancellor's office. You could have students like shouting expletives at them. I actually saw a video of the chancellor of UC Davis being like harassed by these social justice activists, and she was ignoring them for a while, and she turned to like this black person, and this intolerable bitch just holding this protest sign. She was like, "Oh, hey, here's an example of how people in power use black people as props." This black dude just comes up to her, he's trying to talk to her about something completely unrelated, and here these social justice activists running their mouth, and nothing happens to them. They are completely immune.
Yeah. Why is this? Because they are a protected class in the university, in the minds of the faculty.
Yeah. In the sciences though, in the science department, like pretty much everyone can see what's going on.
Yeah. Of course. I'm talking specifically about the social justice zealots that we are having an issue with. Obviously, faculty who aren't this are probably not like this. I mean, I imagine you'll have the odd one or two that are, but I don't think that that's a problem.
Yeah, and when I say human sciences, I'm not referring to all of the humanities. Things like English and history and literature. Yeah. Like I'm talking about things like comparative literature, Chicano studies, that kind of thing.
Well, Tildir's here.
Yeah, Tildir, how's it going, man?
Good evening. I'm just here, just having a listen to what's going on. How is everyone?
Yeah, very well, man.
Yeah, I'm good.
What are your opinions?
Well, you've seen my input on this, I believe, Sargon. So I think you know sort of what my stance is on this. That this is.
Do you want to quickly summarize it though for anyone who hasn't seen
Yes. This is a nice starting point to get people's attention pointed towards the issue, to do a sort of head count on how many people actually are interested in this or not interested in this, but ultimately it's not going to affect any sort of change in and of itself, because the actual problem is so much deeper than just universities, and in some cases it's not necessarily the universities or just academia in itself that's the problem. The real issue here, I think, is the fact that you have teachers who are allowed to put this out. It's not necessarily a problem inherent to academia or the peer review process, even though those things do have problems. It is primarily the fact that it is allowed for this ideology to be disseminated in such a wide fashion.
So you think that the teachers should be the target of this, not necessarily the academic process, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Because the academic process, although it does have its flaws, the main one obviously being peer review, being open to exploitation if you simply happen to know enough people who have a similar sort of ideological bent to you. You can worm things through peer review in some capacity, not always, because it depends what journals you're publishing in, but you can get it into such a way where you can get enough people in one journal that you already know to just kind of let things slide and give you a free pass, as it were. That is a problem, but it's not the only issue here.
Right. Yeah.
In
I
my
mean, I understand that. That's
I'm actually
completely
not so
agreeable.
worried about that kind of thing. I suspect that if you teach it in a more objective manner and show the flaws as well as the virtues of something, then people are less likely to accept it unconditionally, and you'll find like a free market effect of intellectuals in universities is going to just ebb away from social justice.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've been to some of these courses before, not actually signed up, just sitting in, and they they absolutely provide only one view of these things. I was talking earlier about interpretivism versus positivism, and they not only go at it only from an interpretivist perspective, but when they talk about positivism, they really bastardize the natural sciences. They really talk about, oh, if you look at society through the scientific way, you're going to end up with things like eugenics, you're going to end up with genocides, the Nazis, blah blah blah.
Yeah, ridiculous. Yeah. So I agree with you, Tilda, that I think this is a good start, and that's all this is. And I've never made any bones about it that this isn't all this is. But I do think that, I mean, I just keep thinking back to like Hannibal, where he's like, look, they're like, how are you going to get across the Alps? I said, well, I don't know. We'll find a way, or we'll make one. And I just think, okay, well, we've been talking to a lot of people for years now about this. I mean, there are literally hundreds of thousands of people who are aware of this that are opposed to it. And so we have every right to make our voices heard in the mainstream dialogue.
Yeah, I at least the way I saw this petition when Sargon presented it was sort of getting universities that have this problem to admit that there's actually a problem.
Yeah.
Because if they can't do that, then there's no way that anything is going to get solved here.
It's to acknowledge that there is, like, I'm not going to say organized, but like there is consistent opposition to what they're doing. And there is intellectually legitimate opposition. That's what they don't have to necessarily admit it initially. If we can get the public attention and then explain things to people, literally just show them clips of SJWs talking, they're going to be like, what the hell is this? And we're like, exactly, look, we need to talk, But the first thing to do that is they have to know that there are tens of thousands of people who have something to talk about, And this petition seemed like the only way to really do that. Say, look, we are in opposition to what is going on right now. This stuff is a cancer. We want very least, suspending it and then reform.
What if they mistake us for the alt-right, though? I mean, they're sort of just going to brush us away. What if they mistake us for the alt-right, though?
Well, I don't know. Do you think the alt-right could get a 35,000 petition signed? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I
don't think it's that they'll mistake them for the alt-right. I think it's just that they'll accuse you of being the alt-right regardless, because they don't care.
That is a fair point.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. They're teaching factually inaccurate information. So no matter what my political position, the fact will always be that they are incorrect. And that needs to change.
No, this is actually something I'd like to just have a disagreement on. It's not actually that they're factually incorrect, and I say that loosely because we know that a lot of what social justice says is bullshit. The point is that what they've done over the past few decades is they have built up a wealth of academic knowledge that basically says and posits that they are right in what they're saying. Yeah. So, for instance, earlier you were talking about patriarchy theory and how patriarchy theory is complete bullshit. Now, we know that patriarchy theory is very questionable anyway. You can certainly have patriarchal societal layouts. There have been examples of that throughout history in various human societies. The thing is, what they've done is they've taken the concept of patriarchy and they've defined it to be any system wherein men hold majority social power. And in that situation, you can still have a patriarchy where even if you had, say, a bizarre situation where you had 90% female population and only 10% female population, and that 90% female population elected that 10% of males to be 100% of the ruling class, democratically, it was a unilateral decision by the women, it would still be considered a patriarchy.
Yeah, but this is philosophy, not empiricism. I mean, yeah, philosophically, this is obviously nonsense. But what I'm saying is, when they say 1 in 5 women are raped, we can prove that's not true. When they say the wage gap is due to sexism, we can prove that's not true. We can show them the things they're not controlling for. We can empirically demonstrate that they are wrong on almost every statistic they give. I can't think of a feminist statistic that is accurate. You know, can anyone, just out of interest?
Going by their definitions, actually all of their statistics are correct. It's just their definitions of what constitutes what they're saying is incorrect.
No, even then that's not necessarily true, right? Because the 1 in 5 people who are raped, right? That comes from a survey that was done in, I can't remember what university it was off the top of my head, but basically they found that 20% of the women reported sexual assaults to the people doing the survey, even though they didn't report it to any authorities. Now, this maybe has some legitimacy if, you know, more work was done, more studies were done, more was done to figure it out. But you've also got to remember how unbelievably politically biased universities are. The students who go to them and the people doing the thing. There is no way you can rely on that one study done in a liberal university with people who may believe that the nonsense that, things like whatever, their various definitions of rape are true, even though they're not. So it doesn't matter whether they think, oh, well, this is our definition. The legal definition, it doesn't fall under, so I don't care what they say.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with that. But this is sort of where so much of this contention comes from. It's like the 1 in 5 thing. We all know that it's bullshit because it doesn't fall under the legal definition of rape. This is why we tend to use the 2 or 3%, which is considerably more accurate, because it actually accounts for things such as alcohol use in it, or more correctly, it removes alcohol use, which is not entirely accurate in itself, because when you totally remove alcohol, you're still going to be removing some legitimate rape victims, because some people do legitimately get drunk, get drugged, and then be raped.
So it's much more likely to be closer to the statistic, right?
Oh yeah, much more likely to be true to what it actually is. But this is the thing, they just go on this definition of anything in that is what they count as rape. To them, legal definition be damned, and this is the problem.
Well, that's the whole point.
This is the sort of thing, you're looking at sort of the legal standard versus the academic standard, and you're trying to posit which one of these must be sort of an objective truth. And this is where this like grey area between legal definition and social justice definition seems to be like the overwhelming majority of the conflict that people like us have with them. Just saying, like, no, this is not what this word means, and them saying, no, this is what it means, and we're saying, no, it really isn't. You are wrong.
Yeah,
there's a lot of concept creep going on.
Yeah, it just seems like...
Okay, just to answer that, though. So the 1 in 5 thing specifically is a statistic that even if we use their definition, their methodology is suspect. So,
absolutely, yeah.
That's the thing. We know that's not a reliable study, so we're not going to take it as any kind of evidence for anything. Especially not something like 50 million women have been raped or sexually assaulted now overnight. That's not realistic, and it's not true, and it's highly suspect. So that's one of these things. The point is we need to be having these conversations with them in public about this, right? And that's the point, because we can say, well, look, under the law, and you've just redefined your terms, so, I mean, what you've said, rape doesn't actually mean rape. It means a whole lot of things, so it's a different issue. And that's just that example, with the wage gap. It's like, look, you're not controlling for women making different choices in their lives, choosing careers that are lower paying, working less hours, taking time off. Of course, women as an aggregate earn less than men as an aggregate. And we need more people on the public stage debating these things. And I'm not suggesting me or you or anything like that. I'm just saying that we need to show the media that there is an argument to be had here. Because these people are like dilettantes at parties, right? They just swan around looking for interesting things, and they'll get then surface information, and that's it. That's their article. And if they've got two people, if there's an issue like with David Pakman and Gamegate, I'm sure he would have loved to have had an anti-Gamegate person in a conversation with the Gamegate person, but they weren't ever going to do it. They want to have people there, because having an argument is fucking clicks, man. It's ratings. But they're
ridiculous.
They're not fucking committed to the side or anything like that. So you have to come at them with a strong statement. Look, these have to be stopped temporarily so they can be reevaluated. That in itself raises questions. They're like, why? You know, it's like, haha, good, I'm glad you asked. You know, and now they've got to listen to you explain why. And if you can get a good elevator pitch, and say, look, 35,000 other people believe this as well, then why wouldn't a journalist write something about this?
Yeah, I think if we can all sort of agree on the actual problem, I think that would be helpful. So it's kind of two separate things. Long-standing academic word chicanery and not being able to identify when research is crap research. What do you guys think? Does that sound like everything, like something everyone can agree on?
Yeah, I can definitely agree on this.
Yeah. I think more specifically, you want to root out, you want to completely eliminate the interpretivist paradigm. They've been using it for like 50 years, and we know it doesn't work.
Do you want to describe exactly what that is to people?
So when it comes to social research or natural research or anywhere, you have to have you start out with an ontology, and you can go anywhere on the spectrum between realism and relativism. If you're a realist, generally you'll tend towards some form of positivism, maybe neo-positivism, maybe post-positivism, and that sort of orients your epistemology. It's sort of like, okay, the best way to know about the world is by doing experiments and making predictions, or taking surveys and then making predictions about what future results will be, and so on. It's kind of like the empiricist way of doing things, and maybe a little bit of revisions here and there. But on the relativist end, hold on, I'm hearing some feedback. Who's that? Okay, never mind. So on the relativist end, you get epistemologies that are things oriented more toward like constructivism, toward critical theory, and the methodologies associated with this sort of thing it involves interviewing individual subjects and doing this sort of, it could be a number of things. It could be like Freudian psychoanalysis, which is bullshit. It could be any number of analogous things, and they all seem, I think, to be bullshit because they don't have any predictive capabilities. But that's not the goal of interpretivism anyway. The goal of interpretivism is to try to understand the oppressed. But I don't see how that actually goes any way toward helping them.
Yeah, for example, I'm all for phrenology being taught, informational, about phrenology, but I don't want people coming out of university as phrenologists, and that's clearly where the problem is. These people shouldn't be coming out as they are. They should know about these things, though.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for the libertarians to get it, because they're the ones who have been resisting this the most. Because even if and that's the thing. This is being the first step. I'm not proposing a solution. The first step is just suspend these courses so no more people are indoctrinated into it. In my opinion, that just seems like the logical first thing to do. We've identified a major problem. This seems like a complete cult. It's not based in hard data. So you've got to stop teaching this before anything else, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering maybe there are some alternative solutions. Maybe I'm not completely opposed to it, but maybe as a less radical step, you could have course listings which teach the same these same social issues, but does so from a very strong positivist perspective. And from there, you end up with more debates between the positivists, the sorts like Gary Edwards, who I know you're all right with. Yeah. And you would have debates between that sort of person who's interested in social justice, somebody who actually helps, versus the so-called SJWs that we have right now, just these hipster radical fucks who don't really do anything but peacock around. And when you have this conflict, you have this debate, you see, oh shit, it's not just left and right, it's not just this black and white deal where everybody who opposes these people in favor of social justice, they're not just racist, they just want to do things a better way, they want to do things in a way that makes sense.
That's a really great point. It's about reframing the conversation. I'm not prepared to have it on their terms, Their terms are really, really, really one-sided. And one of the things as well is I really want to stress that this does have all the signs of being a cult. You know, it really does. People are incredibly emotionally invested in this, and they cultivate it. They literally, in This Week in Stupid, I put a bunch of professors describing how to teach social justice, and they teach them really negative things that are going to make them feel really terrible. You know, slavery, sex trafficking, all this sort of stuff, and then they instill into them that they must be activists. What can they do to change the world? And then they give them this psychobabble and let them loose. This is, and tell them that everything they do is entirely morally justified, and it makes them feel good to fight. And it's just like, okay, well, I mean, did you guys see the video of the girl who'd walked into a shop or something, and she was, you know, arguing with some people over social justice, and they were like, well, you're not here to listen. And she's like, no, I'm just here to call you assholes. I mean, what kind of person thinks that's an appropriate thing to do? Even if you're trying to make the world a better place, it's insane. And honestly, they literally go through step by step in these fucking course notes what they're going to do to basically radicalize the students. Man, it's not something that is educational. You know, now it's indoctrinational, and it's got to stop. It just has to stop.
Yeah, there's a stark contrast between teaching someone about feminism and giving them instructions on how to be a feminist.
Yeah, and not only that, but guilt tripping them into thinking that they're a feminist, and instilling within them this incredibly dystopian worldview, where every white person is a racist, every man is a sexist, every straight person is a homophobe. No wonder they want to fucking form their own little communities in like Portland or California and stuff. Holy shit, the world must seem evil, man. That everything would be fucking justified if I thought that. I tell you.
Yeah, and do you know what would be interesting is if, you know, this petition actually did take off and these videos started circulating. Imagine what parents, like white parents, would think.
Yes.
Sending their students to a university where the teacher tells their student or tells their child that they are racist. Yeah. How do you think they're going to feel about that? Do you think they're going to send that child to that school? Yeah. Or do you think that child, when they see that video before they go to that school, are going to want to go to that school where that nonsense is being taught? No.
The problem as well is the professors are deliberately cloistering themselves, like you say in Crocodile. The professors deliberately cloister themselves, and then the students are the ones that get the backlash. Like Bahar Mustafa, she didn't teach herself that she can't be racist, and yet she was the person the British public saw. So they just saw one person saying shit, and they thought, never mind. She's a fucking idiot, you know? She's a horrible person, she's a twat. They didn't think, well, what? Hang on, is she the only person who thinks this? Who taught her this, you know? Is this going to be something I'm going to encounter more of in the future? Are my own kids being taught this? You know, it's cunning. And I don't think it's necessarily deliberate. I think it's probably just natural fucking inclination. But it's just like...
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Vernaculus.
Oh, nothing. I'm getting blowback in the chat from calling, you know, college students children. They're not children. Yes, if they're 18, they're adults. Legally, they are adults, and it's not just white parents who would be offended by this either, or not want to send their children again, their adults to that school, or at least give their son or daughter advice about this. And the son or daughter themselves wouldn't want to be taught whatever race they are. Either they are racist or inherently disadvantaged when it's not true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone's just tweeted me some information about the prevalence of sexual violence in the United States. Apparently, the numbers on parity, basically, between men and women. I don't know the veracity of this, though. It's just an image, like two tables someone's tweeting at me, so I don't know.
Hey, Sargon, have you ever read any of Karl Popper?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I strongly recommend reading The Open Society and Its Enemies, and that one especially, but there are a couple of sequels as well. One of them is called The Poverty of Historicism. I think it goes a really long way toward explaining how this all works. So,
can you give me an overview?
So, there's this part, by the way, hi, that guy T.
Hey, T.
Yes, hello.
I think he's going to be back in a second, on.
So I don't endorse all of Karl Popper's philosophy. He subscribes to this thing called critical rationalism. But there's a very important, very good part, and very essential part, I think, that's missing from these social justice courses. And it's the principle of falsifiability. So back in the day, Karl Popper, he's observing all these different things. He's observing all these new sciences that are coming about. He's seeing Freud, he's seeing Adler, he's seeing them coming up with their psychoanalytic theories. He sees a bunch of Marxists talking about how Marx has this scientific theory of history.
Jesus, what?
Well, that was basically how it was marketed.
All right.
And then they had then of course there was general relativity coming out at around that time, and general relativity, Carl noticed, made this prediction that was potentially falsifiable. If their observation of the star during the solar eclipse wasn't what Einstein predicted it to be, it wasn't shifted in the way that he predicted that it would be shifted, then the theory would be falsified. But in the case of things like Freud and Adler, you know, to give an example, you have the Oedipus complex. Freud, in the words of Microroom Media, being a deranged, coke-fueled nutjob, development, have this attraction to their mothers. Everybody already knows this. Well, that Freud believes this. This is obviously bullshit.
Yeah.
But this was kind of how this works. There's no escaping from the Oedipus complex. If a boy grows up and marries a woman who in some way resembles his mother, then this is obviously an example of the Oedipus complex. But at the same time, if he grows up and marries a woman who in no way resembles his mother, then this is reaction formation and is still a manifestation of the Oedipus complex. And so, like a two-headed coin, it doesn't really matter what the outcome is. The Oedipus complex theory is always correct. And he noticed similar tendencies with Marxism. He noticed similar tendencies with Adlerian psychoanalysis. And one phrase that Karl Popper wrote in that book that really sticks out with me, it was something along the lines of, a Marxist could not read the papers, or a Marxist, because of this unfalsifiability, cannot read the papers without seeing evidence of capitalist oppression everywhere. A Freudian psychoanalyst can't have any interactions without seeing confirmations of Freud's theories. It's a totalizing, all-encompassing worldview. And I see that, this I think happens inevitably when you remove falsifiability from the picture. So when you have certain conceptions of patriarchy, let's say you have one feminist who looks at a billboard and sees an image of a half-naked woman, and this billboard is advertising some product, and the woman's half-naked, obviously, it's trying to get people's attention. She's going to say some bullshit about the male gaze, the appropriation of the female body by this capitalist patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. Take this billboard down, it's oppressing women. Another feminist sees people taking this billboard down, and she's thinking, "Oh, look at them! They're trying to stifle the sexuality of women. They're trying to teach women to be ashamed of their own bodies. Fuck this fucking patriarchy."
Yeah, the sort of Kafka trap that social justice sets up every time is, I mean, you're either a racist or you don't know you're a racist. You need to do an implicit bias test, which I'm probably going to guess is going to call you a racist, you know?
Yeah, that's another example.
Either you're a racist or you're a lying racist.
Yeah, exactly. You're racist.
Going off of King Crocoduck's point about unfalsifiability, I noticed a similar thing in regards to rape culture. There's sort of they take an assumption to be true that rape is rampant in Western society. So when they look at rape statistics, if there's a high number of reports of rape, then that's obviously a manifestation of rape culture. Look at all of this rape that's happening. But if there are, low reports of rape, then rape is underreported.
Yeah, you need to start listening and believing women.
Yes, they can't take the facts on their faces. They have to inject their own little worldview
Conspiracy
into
theory.
it. Yeah,
that's what it is. There is some kind of thing preventing women from reporting assaults or whatever, But you're right. It's entirely and again, it's all confirmation bias. It's a giant Kafka trap, and like you say, it is unfalsifiable, and it's just another reason to stop this shit.
Yeah, the book is The Open Society and Its Enemies. I'll put it on the side chat. I know you like.
I was speaking to Vernaculus just for the stream, and he was saying that he had an Audible account. I've got one as well, so I should take fucking sponsorship because they're actually really good, and I've been plowing through fucking Kant and Rousseau and just everything on audiobooks. It's like, Jesus Christ, I need some sleep. I wish I'd done philosophy at university. I didn't think I'd ever need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just started recently. Yeah, this whole thing led me into it as well.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah. So T, how's it going, man? You here?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah. Right. Thanks for joining, man. What are your opinions given the debate that's been going on?
Well, I'm just now tuning in, so that's why I was playing catch up a little bit. But you talking about this overall in terms of the whole petition?
Yeah, and the whatever you understand about it now. What do you think?
Well, on his face in your original motive, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're essentially trying to use a, kind of like a market force of, consumer demand to tell the service providers, which is universities, that the service that they're providing is bullshit.
Well, that's certainly one aspect of it. I mean, another aspect is, for example, in the UK, we've got the Department of Education that regulates education in the UK, and I'm a taxpayer. So, if I'm seeing something obviously dangerous being propagated without oversight at universities, I want them to regulate because that's the power they have. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm just going to interject here, if that's all right. I think because that guy T probably doesn't agree that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably don't agree with the government regulating education to begin with. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay, but just a simple proposition I'm gonna relay to you. If the government is going to regulate education, do you think that it should at least be consistent in that regulation among all sort of any objectively disprovable bullshit out there? If it's going to regulate, it should regulate consistently.
Well, I think that would be, kind of noble in their pursuits. I don't think they should, but, if they did, want to have that standard, I could understand it at least.
Okay, all right. That was it. That's all I wanted to ask.
Because I mean, in the same way that they don't teach creationism in science class, despite the will of creationists. So I think that the same standard should be applied to social science, which is they are claiming is a science. If they want to, like I said, I'm not censoring. I don't want to stop them from being able to express their political opinions. If they want to start madrasas for social justice, as I've said, go ahead. But I do think there should be standards of academic rigor in university education, and social justice doesn't pass these, does it?
I don't think it does. So the main thing is, though, if let's say you did succeed in suspending social justice courses, would you still then feel the need, or you feel that it would be right to mandate those who want to take those types of courses who now can't because of your new regulation to still fund the institution that is higher learning?
Okay, I'm going to reframe this slightly just because I think it'll answer the questions you're asking. People won't be able to take these courses anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not because these courses won't exist. These courses will have changed. They will become, factually accurate and taught by professors who aren't necessarily the thing they are teaching. So does that answer the question?
So you're not kind of, because I mean, if you can make that happen to the point you can actually get a logical feminist to teach feminism, I don't think that's going to be a really attainable feat. But if you could make it happen, that'd be interesting.
Well, they don't necessarily have to be feminists. And even if they are feminists, that's okay, as long as they are also teaching the things about feminism that are true. The counter arguments that exist, and fundamentally, I do think that they all need to be based on real statistics, if nothing else. Things that aren't nonsense.
Yeah, this is a big thing. No historical materialism. That's one of the big things Popper was talking about with the whole unfalsifiability spiel. When you have this quote-unquote scientific theory of history, you were talking about material feminism in one of your earlier videos. It was relatively recent. basically, those are all based on historical materialism. You have a dialectic setup between one group and another, the haves and the have-nots, the oppressor and the oppressed. This could be the proletariats and the bourgeoisie. This could be white people and black people. It could be men and women. And you look at history, all of history, as being defined by these dialectic relations, by this power struggle, this sort of class conflict.
But even if you did shift towards real statistics, I don't think that would stop people from being able to defend, these ridiculous concepts such as rape culture or, the pay gap. I mean, you can use real statistics and misrepresent them or misunderstand them.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be teaching people that there is a pay gap due to sexism. You would have the real data, and you would know that. I mean, even they.
But can you objectively deny that that's false?
Yeah, you can. And there have been numerous studies done by non-feminists and feminists always have the same answer for this. They go, well, it's between something like 4 and 6% that's unaccounted for, and then feminists just cross their arms and go, well, 4 to 6% sexism is too much. It's like that's the God of gaps argument. You're assuming it's sexism. We don't know what that is, but you're assuming it's sexism because you're a fucking feminist and you see sexism everywhere. That is not proof of sexism. It's proof you don't know what's filling up this gap.
But I don't think you could use that in terms of actually arguing to suspend a course, in terms of saying, you're teaching something that's wrong. No, we're just teaching something that we don't know whether to be wrong or right.
Yeah, but they're not teaching it as if it's unknown. They're teaching it as if it's right. That's the problem. They're teaching it as if there is a wage gap caused by sexism, and they don't know that that's the case. And it's certainly not 30% or so, or whatever they claim it to be, normally, the way it's packaged to people in the popular imagination. So I don't see why we can't ask them to not teach that, since we know it's not true.
I mean, you can. This is why I entitled the video where I said I think your principles are better served without government. Because once you inject the state into this type of situation, I think it does complicate things a bit further. Whereas if this was just a completely, private voluntary interaction between things, I would have no issue with you calling for universities to have these types of standards or to honor these types of standards. I think they're completely legitimate standards to uphold. But once you force other people to be a part of your institution and then dictate, what your standards will be, whether or not they agree or disagree, you just tell them that you have to accept these standards because, reasons, I guess, because that's the job the government has. You said what?
Science is the benchmark. Empiricism, things that can be measured scientifically, this is the benchmark. If it doesn't live up...
You can't measure philosophy scientifically.
Yeah, but they don't call it philosophy, they call it social science. So, this is my point. If it doesn't measure up as a science, either they can't call it science or they can't teach it.
So would you just be in favor of gender studies renaming their courses to not social sciences?
That would certainly be a step in the right direction, don't you think?
Yeah, Sargon, let's say they started calling it gender philosophy or race philosophy, not like studies or science.
I would certainly be more inclined to not fucking chimp out about this, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But it doesn't solve the problem.
Sorry?
It doesn't address the problem at hand. It just,
it might do. It might do though. That's the thing. People, young students are going into these courses thinking they're being told factually truthful things. They think that what they're being told isn't wrong. Why would you go to a class expecting to think everything in it is wrong? And this is
people go to philosophy classes and extract the same information.
I know,
they
but
go to philosophy classes and think my philosophy professor is God. He knows everything.
Yeah, but you're also taught things that contradict what you're being taught. That contradict each other. So you've got to choose between you. You come up with philosophical dilemmas. This is what Christina Hoff Sommers was talking about when I had a live stream with her. She was like, you go on an intellectual journey, but these people aren't doing that. They're being indoctrinated in closed classes where they're not being taught outside information. They're being taught false facts, and they're being taught through a Marxist lens. I can't see how this would create anything other than cult members, especially when they're running around censoring everyone, demanding safe spaces. They're clearly emotionally invested in this. So, this is a case of things gone corrupted. It's not a case of like free speech or government or anything like that. This is a case of there is an obvious problem that needs to be dealt with, isn't it?
It's a problem that needs to be dealt with, but I think it's a problem that should be dealt with in the private market. And that's where my primary criticism with all this arises from. You know, that's the only qualifier that I really had in terms of supporting or not supporting.
So is that just because you're looking at this through the libertarian lens then?
Not necessarily. It's just not the libertarian lens. It's also just I don't know. I feel like, you know, because you're offering a you're proposing a market alternative. You're posing a market solution rather to the problem,
yeah,
which I agree with. But
agree with markets.
Say that again.
You don't have to be a libertarian to agree with markets.
I know, exactly. Except it's just that your market solution that you're proposing is not in a market.
Right, okay. I suppose not in a way, but the thing is, I'm not proposing any new... I'm not even petitioning the government. So I'm petitioning the institutions themselves to look at themselves and have some academic rigor. Maybe set up like a university commission or something, you know, by non-social justice professors, to go through them and see what they can find, you know, see what they come up with, go through them with a fine-tooth comb, you know. If they refuse to do that, then sure, go to the Department of Education, because this needs to be done. I mean, I can quite well believe there are going to be university deans and professors who will be trying to protect these things because they agree on these things as well. And I'm sorry, they don't get that option. So then we go to the Department of Education and go, right, is it okay for a university to teach teenagers all white people are racist, yes or no? You know, I want your answer on this. 30,000 people want your answer on this. This is going to be a big deal if you say yes, so you better say no, and that means we can get this sorted. You know? I'm not bothered if it's the government doing this. They already have the power to do this. And this is why I'm asking, is it just this libertarian lens? Because, I mean, if I were to look at it as a libertarian, I could look at it and go, well, yeah, I'm obviously not going to get the government involved, because I want them to do as little as possible. But I'm looking at it through like a realist lens, where I'm like, okay, well, they already have this power. I want this end is more important than not getting government involved. So, you know.
The thing is, though, being a historian, Sargon, will you say that it's dangerous line of thinking to say, you know, the ends justify the means? Yeah,
but that's the case in everything.
And that's why things used to keep getting fucked up. Go ahead, Crocodile.
Yeah, sorry. That guy T. How do you feel about Sargon's solution to publicly funded universities? You know, for example, at my university, we have, as part of our curriculum, as part of something that is imposed upon us, we have general education requirements that we need if we want to graduate, regardless of what our major is. And among these general education requirements are a certain number of units in these social justice classes. How do you feel about that?
Like in terms of like making those non-mandatory?
In terms of petitioning to stop making them mandatory, but also more generally, how you think if you think there's if you would approach this differently for a public university versus a private university.
Well, yeah. So, like I said, I do agree with. I think that's a good idea to not have mandatory classes. You know, whether that be for private or public universities. I just support that fact. Though I would approach the situation differently in a private university versus public, because in a private university, if for whatever reason you come in and you change the rules or something like that, you know, you make it to where to your standards that you believe it should be, then people have a right to disassociate. They have a right to say, yeah, you know, you guys changed it up. I'm not really feeling what you're doing, so I'm going to go take my money over here and go to another university if I can find one that suits to what I'm looking to attain out of education. Out of this service that I pay for.
Okay, and for the public universities, though, you wouldn't have any trouble with Sargon's solution, right? It's just the private ones you take.
It's not really a issue with the solution. It's just the issue with the public university itself. So, you know, the solution is okay, but, you know, I just can't get behind the solution because I can't get behind the concept of the public university to begin with.
I see. Okay.
But we're not talking about the solution. We're talking about identifying the problem and making sure the world is aware that we have identified the problem.
I think we know the problem.
Okay, so
suspending the courses won't make us know the problem anymore.
Yeah, but this is what I'm trying to figure out. What your objection to the petition is, and if the problem is a solution, then that's beyond the scope of this petition.
My petition, my objection to petition is essentially that if you believe that government should have a role in the market of education, and you begin to use either government or just democratic rule, whatever one you want to use, to dictate the standards of that institution, then you're essentially removing the freedom of association that people who may disagree with your particular standards for them to have.
But who does the
You're
government?
basically saying you don't get to choose your standards of education.
But who does the government represent?
I already don't get to choose.
The majority.
Do you think the majority of people are social justice warriors or radical feminists?
Hold on, say that again, the full.
Do you think that the majority of people in the United States or in the UK are social justice warriors or radical feminists?
To a light extent, yes.
Okay, so is the objection that people won't be able to choose to do these social justice courses?
No, the objection is that if they choose not to, they're still being forced to subsidize the institution that has told them basically to fuck off.
Okay, but how does that relate to this petition?
It relates to the overall subject matter. It's not directly the petition.
Sorry, say it again.
I said it relates to like the overlaying subject matter at hand. So it's not directly the petition. You're calling for basically a review of social justice courses to make sure that they're empirical.
Yeah.
Pretty much flat out. Okay, the objection isn't to that. The objection is that if you do go that route, which if you do, I do support it, but I can't support it if you're also going to go the route of mandating that higher education be subsidized by everyone.
Okay, well, I don't have power to mandate anything. So you can successfully strike that off the I don't know. I don't know what's going to come past this petition. So you've got no issue with the petition, right?
No.
Could I ask you to support it, please?
That's the thing, it's just like for example, let me say it like this, let's say you have a petition to where you think Smith and Wesson is a gun manufacturer. You think they should start making handguns only with 10-round magazines. That if I agreed or disagree, let's say I agree for whatever reason, that's fine. I would support the petition. If for whatever reason you say that everyone must subsidize the manufacturing of these guns from Smith & Wesson, and let's say if I say Fred, whatever, didn't like the idea of 10-round magazines, but he's being forced to subsidize the manufacturing of it anyway, that's where I have an issue.
Okay, but is that what I'm asking for with this petition? I'm asking for a review of social justice courses. I'm not asking for anything to be mandated. I just want academic rigor in force.
But it is mandated.
Can I try coming at this from another angle, really quick?
Well, hang on. Let me just. So, what do you mean by it is mandated? Sorry.
Universal access to education is mandated in most Western societies.
Okay, but what I mean is nothing about the petition is mandating anything.
No, but you're targeting a market that is mandated.
Yeah.
So
okay,
it's like I'm not opposed to your request. I'm opposed to the way the market is set up that you're targeting.
Okay, but
so until that market changes, I can't support your request.
I am not represented in education. My anti-SJW worldview, my reality-based worldview in these areas are not represented in public education, yet I am still forced to fund them. I think I should be able to have an objection to this, and I think I should be able to petition the government to say, listen, if you're going to be involved here, you need to be consistent in your regulation. You can't just throw some people out. We are not the ones throwing people out here. We're saying apply your standards consistently, please. And I don't think that there's a problem with that.
Well, that's the thing. I haven't heard. That's a good point. I haven't heard this argument either. Like, what particular standards do you think that they're not upholding that they have?
Well, they're claiming to be a science, and they're not a science.
They're not upholding empirical data. Basically, they are taking studies and information that have been interpreted, and they're taking philosophical worldviews that they hold and positing them as objective facts. So they're positing, all white people must be racist because, and then they'll never really quantify it, or they'll use some sort of philosophical jargon to try and quantify it, because they'll do basically the academic version of cold calling, where they make their statements so vague that they can always find some example that fits into it somehow. And that's not sort of going into an actual empirical framework. It's not saying, right, we can prove this objectively because of this data. They're using the gaps in arguments to support their position, as opposed to saying, like, right, this is what we definitely know, and here's kind of a number over here. We're not entirely sure what this number represents. It could represent this, but it could be something else. But instead they're saying, well, we don't know what this is. Sexism! It must be.
And that's the thing, that's why I think the petition may need to be revised, because it seems like you guys' demands are shifting, because originally it was suspend social justice courses because they're inaccurate. Now it suspends social justice courses because they're teaching it as a science. So
Well,
I'm not sure.
I listed a whole bunch of reasons.
Yeah, but I'm not. So is okay. So this is just one aspect. The fact that they're being taught as a science.
Yeah.
That's one aspect of your petition, but you still have other criticisms as well that's involved.
Yeah, I've got dozens of criticisms of the way social justice is taught and what it's about, and that's the thing. I'm just calling for an investigation into them, really. I'm not arguing against your argument of the market and the way it affects the universities and the government's intervention and whatnot. That's well beyond the scope of what my petition's for. I just want them to I want them to even understand that we want them to investigate and and do something about social justice in the current form that it's in.
Ultimately, I think it's a request for some sort of external investigation for it. Whether that external investigation comes as a result of private companies done sort of funded from a free market background, or from the government, because in some countries where social justice is taught, the government has departments to deal with that. That doesn't matter. It's simply saying an inquiry must be held into this because, and then all of the reasons outlined previously.
Yeah.
I have no objection to that at all.
So could I ask you to support my petition?
At the end of this chat, I probably will, because I think we've cleared up a lot of my contentions that I had with it.
Sargon, no means no.
Yeah, I'm still going to go over it like 4 more times just to make sure there's not one more thing I can get pissed off about. I'm sure there's something else.
Yeah, what I mean is don't try looking at it as if you weren't a libertarian, man. Because I'm not arguing. It's not. I don't see it as being a libertarian issue. That's the thing. I'm not looking at it as if it's a libertarian issue. I'm looking at it as if it's a sort of rational, reality issue.
Yeah, exactly. I understand how you're envisioning it.
Yeah.
You're looking at it like, let's say, for example, if I did look at it in a situation to where government wasn't involved at all, then yeah, I probably wouldn't have had any contention to begin with your petition. But unfortunately, it is involved, and I just can't just brush that off and just say, yeah, let's just pretend that there's no government involvement in this market and just go with.
Yeah, but that's not my fault or my responsibility or something my petition's about. So.
No, it's not your fault. It's just a reality that we have to deal with.
Yeah, sure, but it doesn't seem all that relevant, right? So, but yeah, I figure that if you've got no objections, and that's not really anything, it is a fact. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it's not pertinent to the petition. So, I don't see why I've been kind of stumbling over the libertarian objection to it, because I'm looking at it thinking I don't see how this is a libertarian problem, So
yeah, so I can't say that I do support you in the effort of asking. Whatever avenue you want to go with, to look into an objective, review or investigation into these types of courses. Suspending them, I'm not sure exactly the necessity of that aspect per se.
Okay.
But in terms of the actual just investigation and just to get your data across of how this is being taught and then presenting it, in terms of, hey, is this really what we want to do? I have no opposition to that.
Okay, cool. Okay, so is there an easier way that I can explain this to libertarians? Because I've had a few of them being like, you can't do this or something like that, and I'm looking for a good way to explain it. If how would you explain it to them, just out of interest?
I would essentially say that you're looking to, in a sense, review the courses that are being taught, and you're trying to review the courses to obtain data that you can present to satisfy your or to come to your conclusion or prove your conclusion or assumption that this particular course is stupid or bad or factually inaccurate, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the thing is that it's not just like the main reason I want this is, I mean, it is in a way market forces, because I do think that people should know what they're paying their money for, and it's, we can see what the end result of what they're paying for is. I doubt it's what their parents are sending them to university for. So,
Mm-hmm. And I can see that, but the argument that you're going to come up with more than likely is going to be, I'm just using hypotheticals. I don't know how to actually phrase it without. So let's just say you have a Christian who's going to Christian school, who's learning about Christianity. They might talk about Allah here and there. They might talk about Buddhism here and there. They might talk about spaghetti monster every now and then. But they're learning about the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and basically all the tenets of the Bible.
Yeah.
You say that again?
Yeah, if they came out of that as a Muslim, they'd have been missold their course, right?
Yeah. So the thing is, if you go into that class and say this stuff that you're teaching isn't empirical, there is no empirical evidence that that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. This doesn't hold up to our standards. You got to go. And they go, but then you come back to them and say, hey, you still have to fund this institution that we just kicked you out of. That's where the issue is going to arise.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, I don't think that that's what I'm asking for. I'm not saying that, social justice isn't something that can be valid. I'm more than happy for them to reinstate the courses when they're based on empirical data and reason. Fine. I've got no problem with that.
Well, then I support the petition.
I'm very pleased to hear that. Thank you, T. How's it going, Lauren? You there?
Hey, trying to figure out where I should pick up with you guys here.
Yeah, I take it. Have you been following this at all?
The petition, like I said, I've seen it on a bunch of pages. I haven't signed it yet, but I will go and do that now, since I think I pretty much agree with what's going on. But I'm surprised you guys are getting into, of course T is, well, I get that you're getting into, you can't force people to teach what they can or can't do, but I think the bigger problem is first that the state is actually funding indoctrination, and we should deal with that first, and then later make sure that they're not forcing schools. I think it's the state funding that is the problem.
I think it might be the problem. I mean, who knows? I'm not trying to suggest what the problem is, but I think the first step is making a public statement so people can acknowledge that there is a problem.
Yeah.
And I think
And you're just doing universities, I see. What about high schools? Because I had social justice class in high school where they separated us by gender, race, told us we were privileged, not privileged, right?
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It came Britain, in the last year I was in high school, and I only assume they have more now.
In Britain, 4-year-olds are being asked their gender identity.
That's
as if a 4-year-old knows anything about any of this. It's just... This is ridiculous. And this is way too far.
I don't want to be funding this garbage.
Yeah. For a start,
Yeah.
But I of course, in general, as a libertarian, I'm against most funding. But if there is going to be funding happening, I mean, I'd rather it be going to legitimate sciences.
Yes, please. We need more.
Maths.
Oh yeah, Sargon.
Trades.
Yeah, man.
Well, I have you on. Would you consider signing my counter petition?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. Let me. I'll post in the link.
Sure.
But it's essentially asking for the suspension of public funding of universities to allow for more freedom of association, since so many people who do fund it have realized that their standards have not been met or properly realized by the institution that is governing them, which is the government, or physically sponsoring the universities. So I think this might be something that could, could satisfy a few people.
Okay, so I disagree because first of all, we in STEM really need that money, and we do give back to the economy. We do give back to the public as a result of our work. And
You don't
secondly,
hire women at the same rate. You guys are sexist.
well, what can I do? We're shitlords. But the point is, I think a more clean solution to this would be to have what Sargon is doing, the public petitions. The public is paying for this. The public decides what they want more funding for. If they feel like funds are being wasted on classes that are based on interpretivism, rather than the sort of positivistic way of doing things in the natural sciences, I think that they should decide how the money gets allocated. I think that should be collectively decided.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily against public funding for universities.
Okay, here's an interesting idea. Could we maybe do a sort of half and half? You end up basically, because public funding to universities is not a thing that's going to go away anytime soon, much as some people might like it to, it's not going to cease. Could we instead maybe institute a sort of opt-in, opt-out for it? As in, obviously, students go to the university, universities take whatever money from them, but then the allocation of that money is then determined on the vivacity of the courses that they're doing. So in that instance, you then end up with sciences. Obviously, they will basically always get it because they will always be able to prove the vivacity of what they're doing because it's based on empiricism. But things such as feminism or women's studies having to make the application, they won't be able to get the vivacity to such a high standard that they could pass this. So in essence, have a sort of peer review almost for the actual courses and how they're able to get funding. So you can run whatever course you like at a university, but it would have to be privately funded until such a point where they're able to demonstrably prove that what they're doing has some sort of empirical worth to it.
And you see that a lot with trades programs being funded. When where I live in BC, where we have a lot of building needed to be done, we've got pipelines being built. They'll try to encourage people to go into those programs. And like you said, it's not going to end anytime soon. So if the government's going to put it into something that you can prove is going to help the economy, that is needed in society. And you're right, you'll have a tough time proving that feminist dance theory or gender theory is going to be useful in society. The problem is you've got a lot of people on these boards, though, that are cultural Marxists that will say, yes, this is 100% needed in society and make some sort of very convoluted, confusing argument for why we need it to benefit our economy.
Yeah, we'll fall back into the same sort of peer review trap that peer review is subject to now. But one concern I do have with a system like that would be what would then happen to things which have no empirical basis, things like the arts and creative things. Things which are very good for society to have. I'm fully
well, not university art. Have you been to a university art gallery?
I have. They are absolutely terrible.
They're trash. They literally cut the program now.
Yeah, but the arts aren't claiming to be sciences. They're not claiming to be based on reality.
That's true.
And besides, in our art gallery, there's this puddle of piss that I found very inspirational. It touched me.
I was a big fan of the unmade bed that won the Turner Prize the other year. It was incredible. I didn't realize that my bedrooms had for my whole life.
I make award-winning art every morning.
But this is the point. They're not positing a worldview and teaching that certain things are certain things. They're creative humanities. So who cares?
Well, because that would still fall into how you'd be funding universities, because it would have to be taken universally. If you said, we're not going to fund anything unless you can reach XYZ standard, then you'd have to cut funding to things like the arts and philosophy.
Yeah,
because they wouldn't be... So I'm just thinking, like, if you had that standard, you wouldn't be able to put it purely on the science. You'd want it to be as universal as possible, because that would be the aim of any moral standard that you held.
Well,
that's
honestly,
just why I bring that up.
Yeah, the financial reform of universities is well beyond the scope of what I was envisaging. I literally just wanted to get a self-evident problem that is so multifacetedly bad that we could literally just point anyone at it and they'd just go, good God, that's, every single person who's not been indoctrinated into this has a problem with it.
Well, I mean, think about if someone who is doing funding for a university, or someone walked into a classroom, it was a sciences classroom, and it's like, where do you feel, what do you feel the mitochondria of the cell is? What do you feel? I feel it's a dog, and everyone's talking about that, and like, how do you think people who are funding this would feel? Well, I guess going back to feelings, but like when I was in women's studies class in university, the whole thing was just going back and forth. What do you feel sexism in society is to you? What do you feel patriarchy is? What do you feel about everything? And they're just going in a circle, and there's no real guide to what is the facts and what's not. It's entirely based on your feelings circle and what everyone in the class is saying. Literally every single person in that class was their own professor and textbook.
Yeah, we were discussing before you got here. This is basically interpretivism in a nutshell.
Yes. And imagine if they did that for a maths class. Well, I mean, if you just every answer was right at the end, I mean, I think a lot of people would have problems with that. And it's amazing. You're right. We need to have some sort of something to expose this. And that was what was really interesting with my class when I asked if I could do blogs and stuff on this, and they said, no, we don't talk about what happens in this class outside of the classroom. No filming, no recording, no even just typing out what people are saying, what the teacher's saying, what the work is. That was just fascinating to me. Recording is usually encouraged in lectures so that you can listen back on it and remember.
That's a cult mentality. The insular, we don't want the outside world knowing what we're doing, but we're going to talk to you exclusively about your feelings so you see this as being an emotional safe space. You become attached to it. You need it. That's the cult indoctrination right there. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. And so yeah, that's why I deliberately kept the scope of this. Suspend them temporarily so they can be reformed. Any problem professors who are obviously taking advantage of this removed. Bring in proper psychiatrists and stuff. People who actually study cults. Bring them in. I'm not presuming that I'm going to set how fucking universities are financed. Jesus fucking Christ. But I can see that there's a problem here, and people aren't willing to talk about it in a lot of ways because they're afraid of getting bullied and losing their jobs. And a lot of people simply don't know about it. They don't know. And then they, like I was saying about Muhammad Safa, they see like the outgrowth of it. Her saying, "Oh, can't be racist." That goes viral, but it doesn't change anything. People just go, "She's an idiot,"
Yeah.
This needs to be addressed, I think.
I was just talking with my aunt today and explaining to her what triggering is, and she's like, "Are you talking about a gun, like a gun trigger?" And I'm like, "No, it's where people get upset by words and people are." She's like, "What are you talking about, Lauren? This doesn't make any sense." You're right. The real world doesn't know what's going on in a lot of cases. You really have to be following the nonsense, or you see the article and you just don't believe it. You scroll past it. You're like, "That's nonsense. That must be an onion piece." Like the Edinburgh banning putting your hand up. My goodness.
Yeah. I was actually at my grandmother's house a little while ago, and I think there was I'm not sure if it was a super PAC ad or an actual Hillary campaign ad against Trump, but it was sort of just going through all of the mean things that Trump has said about women or something like that. And my grandmother's she's sitting at the kitchen table, she just looks at the television and goes, "Fucking pussies." Like, it's just, it's so
I've just had a tweet from someone, right? This is something. Right? Apparently, I pretend all universities act accordingly, and that's not true. I even say that universities teach white hatred. It's stupid. I'm sorry. I do think that saying all white people are racist is a form of hatred. I genuinely think that it'd be like me calling all black people violent. It absolutely is not something that should be taught. I mean, A, it's not true. B, I mean, that's enough actually. It's just not true.
we had to read The Invisible Backpack of Privilege in one of my classes. It was designated reading. Yeah, and it's just literally telling you, as a white person, you have a backpack that has a preloaded Visa card in it, and
original sin.
You get your $1 million. Yeah, original sin. It tells you all your privileges you have, and it's like, They act like poor white people just don't exist.
Yeah,
like there's no possible struggle a white person could ever go through.
Yeah, it's a possibility that this thing is invisible, or it's a possibility that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Which is more likely?
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like the thing is, what was like you know, you can't smell it, touch it, taste it, but they keep saying it's there, and I think eventually you're just gonna have to go look. I don't think it is there. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my demand of Captain Andy all those months ago. It's like, okay, you assert that this is here, right? Find me the thermometer for privilege, find me the speedometer for racism, find me the pressure gauge for privilege, you know, find how am I supposed to measure this?
They would have all of that if we just invested more funding into gender studies.
God damn it, you're right. The free market will fix it.
Or it would if they weren't all piss poor. Fucking, I mean, have you not noticed the I mean, it's not popular with the public at all. It's the, you know, Salon and all those, you know, BuzzFeed. They're all tanking. I think it's the clickbait though. I think people have become immune to it these days.
I mean, there has to be, yeah, they're tanking still, but I mean, how do you make money off of coming out with articles that are just all complete nonsense that people are getting tired of? There has to be some funding behind it. You don't make money off of ads. You don't on websites.
Well, places like the Huffington Post are funded by billionaires. I mean,
yeah, but who's funding who's funding BuzzFeed and Slate?
Probably George Soros, mate.
Yeah, probably.
I'd say the same people who are funding Anita Sarkeesian.
Well, that's people like what's the Double Fine guy, Tim Schafer, and the chap from Cards Against Humanity. Individually successful SJWs, not because of social justice. In fact, in direct opposition to social justice was their fortune made. They're now funding this. So you're right. Okay, so I'm just going through. Is anyone from the chat or anything like that? Do you want to tweet any questions to anyone that's here? Because since we're here.
Oh, and Sargon, I feel like I would be doing a disservice if I didn't mention this. I did get some messages that said that you're ignoring a few of the points that Craig brought up in the chat that we did the other day. I don't know exactly.
Which ones? I'm happy to answer them.
I'm not sure exactly. I think they said they was asking if he could actually join.
Right. Okay. Who is he?
You know the guy we had a chat with yesterday. Was it yesterday? Or the night before last night? After your Willy Bumblebee stream.
Yeah, no, I remember him. It was, mate, it's been late, and I've probably done, I don't know, about 10 hours of streams about this so far, so you've got to forgive me for forgetting and not getting to someone's argument. But yeah, sure, I'll send the Hangout link. Yeah. If you guys want to talk about anything in the meantime, go ahead.
So we're all in agreement that this isn't censorship.
I don't think asking for someone to have empirical data on their side is censorship.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty much agreed on that point.
Because no one seems to be saying like you're not allowed to say this. It's just put it into a corner over there and see if it sinks or swims on its own merit, as opposed to A, publicly funding the shit out of it, and B, putting it out as if it's some sort of objective truth when so much of it is just interpretivist nonsense or just blind assertion.
Right.
Would anybody be opposed to actually like just removing public subsidization of social sciences?
No, because here's the thing. It is technically possible for the social sciences. I have seen some social sciences, some articles in peer-reviewed journals that actually do hold up, that do meet positivist standards. It's just a matter of reforming the social sciences to make them, make them more like the natural sciences.
As a poli-sci major, I would 100% advocating nuking all of the social sciences departments. Just end them. It's gone too far. You ever seen that episode of Rick and Morty where like they just destroy the world so far, like they make like the Cronenberg Rick and Morty, and it's
I don't think
this
I've
is
seen.
beyond fucked up. We can't fix this. Let's just go to another universe, kill ourselves, and live there. That's the social sciences. It's beyond beyond repair, in my opinion.
Well, technically, I mean, the reason it seems that way is because it's not just their methodology that's fucked up. It's not even just their epistemology; it's their ontology. All right, this is like all the way, to like the base of everything that they do. This is where it all starts. They tend toward relativism and not toward realism, and that's where the problems begin.
Yeah, it's in the blank slate theory, basically. We know scientifically humans are not a blank slate, So
that's really what we need.
But more generally, more realism, less of the relativism, and from there, positivism, I think, will follow inevitably.
Okay, I'm just going to answer a question someone sent on Twitter. It's I think quite a straightforward one. Since you're determined to suspend social justice courses, what about suspending other just as ridiculous courses such as wasting time on the internet, being bored at Brown University, tree climbing by Cornell, a Kanye West course, the American Vacation, blah blah. If we're going to demand that universities have a high standard education, should these courses be suspended too, since they are just as ridiculous as and useless? The answer to that is they're probably not billed as a science.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
we've got classes. We've got classes on zombies. Like, you could take classes going through zombie history, but they're not teaching that zombies are a fact. They're teaching you about zombie movies and zombie books. They're useless classes, but they're not saying zombies are a fact.
That sounds pretty cool. I would take that class.
Zombies are factually awesome.
But seriously, I personally would never take one. I don't think any public funding should go to them. But to be fair, public funding probably doesn't go specifically to them, so I don't know.
Well, not specifically, but once you get the loan, you can just get whatever you want.
Yeah, maybe it's a case for government oversight there, T.
No, case for no loans.
That's just easy.
Can someone please explain to me what the difference is between a zombie and a mummy?
What happened to mummies? They used to be.
Just well, mummies are mummified.
Okay, before we go off on topic, on tangent, sorry. Craig, are you here?
Yes. Hi.
Hey, man. What didn't I answer the other day?
Okay, thanks for bringing me on here. I was just going to point out here, when we were going down this path, there were other regulatory mechanisms that were in place that I brought up before regarding accreditation. I don't want to make that a whole different subject matter on its own, if need be.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't try to determine any kind of methodology for fixing them.
Yeah.
I'm just demanding that they be addressed.
And also, and I know you've put an update on your petition, but there's also the discrepancy between your immediate next step goal versus the overarching goal that was described by your petition, which was more or less to reform in entirety, or to at least remove, as its current state is now, social justice teachings in a collegiate context.
Yeah, because if you've got something that's broken, you generally tend to turn it off before you try and fix it, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Now, I know in the UK you guys have it where you get like 100,000 signatures on a parliamentary petition, and they have to address it in Parliament, correct? Mm-hmm. Do you think that this one is actually going to be addressed, or they'll actually act on it, talk about it, if you reach a certain amount?
I think that public petitions do, when they reach a certain sort of critical mass, and you have enough people talking about them, and they do tend to get mainstream attention, yeah.
Mm-hmm. At my university, there have been a lot of chalk graffiti showing up, just people chalking all over the ground, like all over the place in the middle of the night. No, but
the writing on the wall, yeah.
Yeah, basically. And they're like, it's just protests like trigger warnings are stupid, facts matter, all lives matter, that kind of thing.
Hateful things, yeah.
Yeah, and the 1 in 5 figure is a lie, and then the real figure, whatever it is next to it, and then everybody's super offended, everybody's triggered, they have these crisis counselors around. The point is, maybe this petition will find its way, like, to similar incidents.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's people who pay to go to university can, they can say, look, this is something that you're doing. There are a lot of, it's another thing. It's a fact. There are tens of thousands of people who want to talk about this. So it's kind of hard to resist that sort of thing. It just has to be presented if you want it to happen. And that's what feminists do. That's how feminists have kind of inserted their bullshit into popular culture. They've made it happen, and we can make it happen as well. It's not a mechanism unique to feminism. It's a mechanism unique to groups of people who understand they all want something similar.
Yeah.
So I don't see any problem with us using that. In fact, I think it's the only way that we're going to... I can't think of a better way to get the attention of, say, I don't know, I'm frustrated that conservative media outlets aren't talking about this. I mean, I can't believe for a second they don't want social justice taken out of universities. You know?
Well, I think that's in Trump's list of things he's going to make great.
Well, there we go. You know?
Well, here's the thing you can think about with that kind of gripe. Do they really want to have someone turning a critical eye to their lack of ability in the sciences department? I mean, if you start coming down on them with that, you're going to have to be able to open up that whole Pandora's box. What else do they talk about where they blindly ignore anything where there's at least some kind of science on the subject matter? You know, if it comes to a variety of issues in terms of health or in terms of environment.
No, I have heard them argue whenever this was presented to them, whenever this way of saying, hey, you guys gotta reform, you guys gotta become more like the natural sciences, I have heard them counter argue the most ridiculous bullshit. I mean, first of all, they'll say that the scientific enterprise is patriarchal, big surprise.
Sorry.
But then they'll say that the scientific method and all of this Enlightenment stuff, these are expressions of Western European Enlightenment values, and they don't necessarily reflect different types of science. These are actually the words of somebody I was arguing with on this.
I have one word for that person: algebra.
Yeah, I agree. But like this person I was arguing with, she was talking about the virtues of Eastern science and how that gets ignored by the science departments, and I'm just staring fucking dumbstruck. There's no such thing as Eastern or Western science. Just because science developed in the West doesn't mean that it's inherently a Western thing. Like, but anyway, from there you inevitably get the usual. Oh, this positivism is going to lead to eugenics and genocide, and you're a Hitler, and fuck you, so on.
What? No. So, I mean, how many journal articles do you have to present to them written in a variety of Asian languages, all on the same subject matter, before that would just... Well, actually, never mind. It would never be bothered to translate them.
No. Those Asians, they are assimilating because we have colonialized them.
Yeah, how many billion of them? Okay.
Well, now we know science is oppression.
Mm-hmm.
We also found out that China is a very Western state.
No, I shit you not. I shit you not. One of these social science professors. I shit you not. I swear to the gods. I shit you the fuck not. He was actually saying that that the scientific enterprise, that the science department on campus and science in general, is used as. He was talking about these systems of oppression, as they like.
Oh, he's just angry about the Sokol affair. Seriously, I think these people, all you need to do is just start ramming science down their throat if they want to pretend to be one. Just,
Absolutely.
Do meta-analysis, review papers, etc. Point out how all of what they're doing is bullshit. If they want to be a real science, then they're going to have to sit there and compete within the realm of equal ideas.
Well, this has already happened to some degree. There was a meta-analysis of like a couple of hundred of their studies, and they found something like only about 10% of them could ever actually even be replicated.
Yeah.
So Vernaculus, earlier you mentioned you asked me if I thought that the majority of the population were implying like SJWs or feminists.
Yes.
Do you think they are?
I actually don't. I'm not sure of the actual percentage. I'm just going off of what I've seen, but I don't think that they are. I think that most people generally don't voice their opposition or reluctantly agree.
I don't think a lot of people are as SJW or as feminist as many of that we see. They're extreme, lunatics.
Yeah,
but
all white people are racist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like going off of like some of Teal Deer's examples that you put in his last video, where you talk about kind of like things like mandatory wheelchair ramp access in front of buildings and things were pushed by what would then be described as, relatively light and possibly even reasonable, but still social justice causes.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of those causes, a lot of people have sympathy for those types of things.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I don't think that would be an example of any sort of justice. But yeah, I mean, there are social causes that have legitimacy. Like I'm not sure if I would support mandatory wheelchair ramps. I would just, call the business owner.
It's just a good thing to have.
Yeah, it's a good thing to have, and I would support it. But I'm not sure if I would support, some sort of mandatory regulation involved with that. But I do think that there are social causes that have legitimacy. I just don't think that this one's legitimate.
Well, it tends to be ones which are objectively measurable. Are
Right.
you in a wheelchair? You have an objective disadvantage. Okay,
Yeah.
we can do
Yeah.
something. Are
You're
you
in-
blind?
The thing is that people are being taught that those are the exact same thing. Like in the book that Sargon and I did a live stream going through one of the textbooks from Ontario here in Canada, and it directly compares people in wheelchairs who can't go up ramps to women, to being female. And it says they have like the exact same level of disability in life.
Yeah, as if being a woman
This
is
is
a
why I want
disability.
them to measure it.
Being a woman is a retardation.
Yeah, it's like, but if you're in a wheelchair, you can actually measure that. Are you in a chair with wheels? Okay, that means you can't climb stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's not even that.
it'd
It's just
be
can
nice.
you walk? If
Yeah.
I stand you on your feet,
Yeah.
will you fall over immediately? Right. Test concluded.
Okay,
Let's
if
do
that's
it
the
3
case.
times because science.
Yeah.
Well, like what it said in the book, and it's very like interesting. They're very sneaky with it. It's like, so being privileged is like having money, and being not privileged is, for example, being in a wheelchair and not being able to go upstairs in a ramp. And then it'll say, here are some things that are privileged and not privileged. And it'll be like, privileged, white, male, this, that. Not privileged, female, minority, this, that, and the other. So it gives you that example of the wheelchair, and then it'll categorize woman, minority, non-native language speaker in the exact same category, but it'll use the most extreme example.
Right. They try to shoehorn everything in. Yeah, exactly.
It's bullshit because what they're doing is they're taking the default of human and assuming that is a position of privilege when it's not. That's the baseline. And that really fucking irks me. So no, a privilege is something objectively above a baseline of what people have. Like if you're just a person, 2 arms, 2 legs, you can move, walk, talk, all of that sort of shit. You're not privileged. You are the bare minimum of what a person pretty much should be, which is why 90-something% of all humans are like that. In order to be a disadvantaged thing, you would have to be something less than that. Now that's pretty objectively measurable in some cases. But in order to be privileged, you'd have to have something above that, or you would have to, again, like it doesn't necessarily have to be physical. You can have non-physical things that put you above that, but again, they would have to be objectively measurable, like wealth. That's objectively measurable. That's the thing that really fucking pisses me off about this privilege and oppression nonsense. Like the baseline of a human is not privilege. The
We'll cut everyone's legs off, and then we'll all be equal.
Hmm?
Cut everyone's legs off. Everyone will be equal.
That could work, but then
Yeah,
I
your
would be
stubs
more
are longer than
equal
mine.
because I'd get 2 legs cut off and I'd still have 2. So fuck all y'all.
So
Then you'd
listen
be
to this.
privileged.
This is from the textbook, and remember, this is why I say we need to start this petition with high schools, because this is from high school. It asks, is it fair that government ministries give preference to hiring members of visible minorities, people with disabilities, and women? Yes, because these groups face language discrimination and physical barriers that make it harder for them to get hired. Notice how they only mention the language and physical barriers, yet somehow lump women and people with and minorities in there. But they only mention the language and physical barriers as problems.
Yeah,
for
that's
getting hired.
bullshit. Minorities, your skin color does not determine your language, and I'm pretty sure women can speak. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're stereotypically famous for doing it to the point of annoyance.
But they're so sneaky in this book. Like, it's so bad. And, these poor kids, they don't think past it because their whole education is learning not to think for themselves, but to regurgitate the textbook onto a piece of paper. So they just keep regurgitating it. It can't be wrong because their teachers know all.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's why if you want to try to get this done in high school, I wish you luck.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And
Yeah,
they're
they
being
follow.
taught that math is the exact same as this, that your maths, your English, all of this are the exact same, that you can find the objective answer to a social science question. Because our exams in women's studies, they would ask us questions that were entirely like, is the world sexist? And the answer would have to be yes to get the correct answer, right?
And I guess the
Yeah.
question arises, like why are high schools and universities not interested in this empirical level or empirical standard? Why aren't they interested in promoting critical thinking? Why are they only interested in promoting the regurgitation of average textbook? Get the new one out next year. I'd say it comes down to funding. That's their primary goal. Especially at least in America, that's the education system's primary goal is to maintain funding.
Well, that's not such a bad thing. I mean,
you maintain funding through average efforts, though. You can't do too good. Then like, you're doing fine. But if you do too bad, they'll shut down the school. You need just the right amount of failure to say that we need a little bit more money this year so we can make them better.
And you know what's interesting? Like at my school, we had a pipeline that was going through that was offering funding for sciences and for the university for going nearby, and all the university students were raging. They were like, you cannot accept this offer because then our university might be more pro-pipelines, more pro-oil. If you accept this offer, that would be amazing financially for the university. And as much as it would be amazing financially, I liked that students were being critical of where the funding came from and saying, hey, would this skew what our education would look like if we took funding from certain people? But they don't seem to do this with any other group other than things they deem environmentally immoral or right-wing.
Yeah, we did divest from prisons, from private prisons, a couple of years ago as a result of this.
Mm-hmm.
Where did Sargon go?
To get
Tea.
tea. So
That
British.
British fucker.
I wonder if they have
That's
you would
racist.
assume, right, that they would have some type of advanced technology to make tea faster because they get it so fucking often. To me, tea is a chore. Like you have to. It takes like 7-8 minutes for the water to get hot, and then you gotta wait for the tea to actually settle in the water. I don't know how they make it in Britain, but
Your life sounds
We
so
use
hard.
electric kettles. I've noticed this about Americans. Why do you not seem to have electric kettles? We have electric kettles that will heat water up in about 30 seconds to a minute.
that's called a
Yet
microwave.
every single time Americans have done it, it's like, oh no, you take this thing, you put it on the hob, and then you have to wait. No, fuck that. We stopped doing that like a century ago. It's bullshit.
I don't think we call whatever you're saying a hob either.
We talking about the eye of the
Talking about a
The top
stovetop?
of your stove.
Oh, a stovetop.
Gas fire.
Yeah, we see our language is simple. Okay, it's
Yeah,
the
I've
top of the
noticed. You miss
stove.
half the
It's a
letters.
stove top. No, we got rid of the unnecessary letters.
I don't think
the letter-
electric kettles
No,
are
you had a
good, right?
dictionary written by a dyslexic guy, and everyone
letter-
was too polite to correct him.
The letter U is not as necessary as you think it is.
And
I'm
the
pretty-
the last letter of the alphabet is Z, not Z.
I like
Zed.
Zed. Zed sounds smarter.
Get out.
Yeah,
And my
But
coffee.
yeah,
We
I'm
do
pretty
have
sure
we do have an amazing bit of technology for making tea. It's something called a teas made. It's a device that basically dispenses tea for you in the morning. It's basically a tea maker, like an
Let's-
automatic tea making vending
I
machine
feel
with
like
an
you're
alarm
describing
clock
a woman
attached
right
to it.
now.
yeah, let's deconstruct what you just said. Okay, so tea made? Is that what it is?
Teas made.
Tea's made. Okay, so you put the word made in there, and made, of course, refers to women, and this is an object, which reflects further the subject-object dichotomy of patriarchy, which shows that you are a shitlord for owning this device.
I'm
Unfortunately,
envisioning-
made is spelled M-A-D-E, as
Yeah.
in made in the past tense.
Yeah, it just sounds like, hey, the tea is made.
Exactly.
You know,
It's
that's a very American way of doing things.
Okay. I just envision, like Tildir having some woman in a skimpy maid outfit just pouring tea for him in the morning.
Well, that's even better than a tea.
Well,
made.
of
You
course
just get
I
a
have.
woman
I
to wake
actually
up
have
early
two
and
of
make you
those.
tea.
Yeah.
I have one of them for the tea and one for the milk, and that's on the rare occasions when I do have milk.
And you're saying that these things are electrically powered?
Oh yes,
That's
we have some
impressive.
fantastic technology in the Forest of Logic.
Wow.
It's amazing what you can achieve with no humans around fucking shit up with gender politics all the time.
It's incredible.
Do you make the squirrels pay for your deer schools?
No, we do not.
It's a good society.
What color are the squirrels?
The squirrels are whatever color nature makes them, because
You
that
keep
is
them
how it's
trapped.
meant to be.
You keep them trapped in the power plant?
Hmm?
So do you keep them trapped in the power plant?
Some of them. Mostly
Oh,
we
wait a
use voles, though. We found they have better stamina. And they're not as attractive, so no one really misses them when they go somewhere and never come back.
Lauren, do you think this petition will work in Canada?
Will this petition work in Kakada? No. I think it has a better chance of being acknowledged in the States or the UK, where it's people don't seem to realize things are a problem until it goes too far. Like with the refugee crisis, until people start dying, people don't start to wake up and see things are going wrong. Same with Canada. You could have every university have subsidized gender studies classes that were the exact same as mine, and you practically do, and people still don't see it as a problem, really.
Was electing Justin Trudeau not really seen that much of a problem?
Well, I was in the university pub when that happened with a few hundred students, and as the whole map turns red for the Liberals, Justin Trudeau, you've got everyone cheering, and I'm just in the corner taking shots as the world starts burning around me.
The red stands for fire.
Very apocalyptic. Yeah, it's a situation.
I was really annoyed at how the media was gushing on about his explanation of quantum computation.
Oh, I know. They
Like,
cut out.
What?
That was a planned thing. They cut out the part where he refused to answer the question about ISIS, and he answered the joke question about quantum mechanics instead. Sorry, I'm fuming. Anyways, continue what you were saying.
I'm more fuming about the part that he didn't even do it that well. His answer was not that good, and everyone like, oh, he's such a genius. Fuck off. He's okay. He's not a genius.
He's okay. Well, he's not even okay. I guarantee that was like a planted question.
Okay, he's okay. His understanding of quantum computation for a layperson is somewhat okay.
Yeah.
What, he has like a history in mathematics or something?
No, he was a drama teacher in my town. Shut up.
Well, just tell me he skipped the Copenhagen interpretation.
Man.
Okay.
And
if I'm ever...
it's not even a joke when people call it cuckada. I don't know if you guys know much about Canada, but like his dad was like literally a cuck to the Rolling Stones. His mom ran off on election night and was like sleeping with the lead singer of the Rolling Stones while his dad was getting elected.
Oh my goodness.
Are you old enough to run for Prime Minister, Lauren?
Maybe, I don't know. I ran for.
I think you could beat Trudeau.
Trudeau, Justin Trudeau.
That's his name, was it? Trudeau or Trudeau?
Oh, we call him like Trudeau as a joke, but his name's Trudeau.
Oh, so I was in on the joke anyway. Cool.
Yeah, but Canada's in a bit of a situation. You know what? We sent 80% of our tax dollars within the first 100 days of Trudeau out of our country.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't get any.
We sent them to like Germany to help with refugees and stuff. We spent a few. This is one that really makes me mad. We spent like 3.4 billion fighting climate change in poor countries, and we just signed the Paris Accord. And like it's like in poor countries where they're contributing the least to carbon emissions, and they need energy to get up on their feet. I don't know, man.
Yeah, that money should have gone to China instead.
Lauren, I'm really sorry.
The one great thing.
Garbage.
The one great thing is all that money that from our taxes that is going out of our country is being injected back into our country by China buying the whole coast. Kidding. The housing market is just booming right now here.
Is there a lot of are you guys seeing a surge in like Chinese buying up real estate there?
Oh, absolutely. They're literally buying the whole coast. Like, if you look at a picture of recent immigration, it's really fascinating. Look at a picture of recent immigration to my coast in BC. The whole map is basically red because it's all Chinese moving in and buying the area because they have the money to. And it's, like, great for people selling their houses right now. But it's really interesting to see the demographic changes going on. We've got Vancouver is the most Asian city outside of Asia now. And I think you're seeing towns and stuff trying to change the language laws and everything. And we don't really have that set in stone of a language in BC. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next 50 years.
That's curious, because I would like to. I mean, I would like to. I know this is probably going to make the chat crazy, but I'd like to ask, like a race realist, how they say, we want to maintain, the white pride in our country because of the high IQ, but then they do concede that Asians have higher IQ. I wonder if they're opposed to, Asians, heavily migrating to Western societies.
Even worse, Jews have a high IQ.
People can't really acknowledge that there is a cultural effect with large migration. A lot of people don't like to acknowledge it because they deem it's racist, right? But when you've got these neighborhoods where you used to have families living that were European, or I've just been there for a long time, even natives to the land, and you have high Chinese migration. Not that I have anything against Chinese people, just when they come in here and no one speaks English and all the shops start changing the languages, like these people who lived there initially are forced to move, essentially, if they can't learn the new language of the people moving into the area, which is a very sad aspect of it, of course, and the culture changes a bit as well. And I do think that a country, and this is I'm stealing this from radio show host Michael Savage. A country is defined by language, borders, and culture. You might not like that, T, but I do believe that. As much as I love my small government, to have a country, you have to have language, borders, and culture.
Language, borders, culture. It's not bad.
Yeah, that's not really my cup of tea.
Language, borders, and culture.
Yeah. I don't know.
Why not?
I am... Okay. Okay, so you're a libertarian. And so...
The
okay,
chat's all saying I hate Chinese people now. Sorry, yeah?
Yeah, I just... You like a small government.
I like a very small government, but I'm realistic.
Okay, well, I like government to be as big as possible. In fact, I like everybody to be a member of the government.
Oh, no. That's a situation.
Does everybody get paid, or do only a few people get paid who are members?
No, in all seriousness, though, I do like direct democracy. I think that's a very interesting idea. I think that in the age of the internet, I think it might be more prudent for the population, instead of having elected representatives, to be able to draft their own legislation and then to everybody individually vote on it. It's a lot better than the fuck system we have right now.
Well, I'm not sure about that, because a lot of these things are written in legal terms, and so what's going to happen in a direct democracy is you're going to have people who have different definitions for things, and it's basically just going to be a gigantic semantic argument.
Is there no way around that? I mean, I'm thinking, okay, like, I'm not thinking about doing this, like, any time within, the next 30 or 40 years, but...
Oh, no, obviously not. It's just sort of an
say
idea.
Say 70 years from now, direct democracy takes off. Say by then there's a way for everybody to get to university, for everybody to afford it, or for it to be paid by the government. I know some of you don't like that. Hey, you don't got student debts. But suppose that happens, and suppose everybody's able to understand all of this legal jargon, everybody is actually able to participate in the political process.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Getting the population to understand.
Are we talking about direct democracy?
Yeah.
Acropolis now.
Yeah. Bit of a dangerous prospect, isn't it, lads?
Well, I don't know. I think that if everybody gets a university education, not imbued with this interpretivist bullshit, but if everybody... hold on, I'm reading the chat right now. These people are fucking crazy. I love you all. But yeah, what the fuck was I talking about?
Direct democracy.
Okay.
How mob rule is good.
You're talking about how you think
here's
an idiot's opinion is just as valid as anyone else's.
I think it would be different from mob rule if everybody goes into this educated. You hear some people saying democracy only works if everybody democracy only works if people know what the fuck is going on. So with direct democracy, I think that would actually apply.
I think we can safely say, given the state of media propaganda at the moment and the levels of misinformation present in the public, we can safely rule out that people are ever going to be educated on the issues, right?
Yeah, and plus, I mean, I have a life. I don't want to spend my entire life legislating and
Well, you don't have to. I mean,
pondering these
everybody
kinds
who
of
wants to be
things
part of the
and-
political process.
Yeah, but that's the problem, though. When people start just getting the snippets of news because they want to do other things, if you had a direct democracy, any demagogue could take control. Alex Jones would probably be the prime minister or the president. So
Okay.
the direct democracies are always incredibly susceptible to demagogues. So.
Damn
I acknowledge
globalists.
that. Yeah, I do recognize these problems, but I do think that if they could be addressed somehow, if they could be rectified, I do think that it could be very interesting.
Yeah, I certainly don't think the situation we have now is working out well. So I definitely think that party democracy needs reformation because I mean it came from a different era, you know. It came from a time when communication wasn't nearly as good as it is now, and people demand more representation. So it definitely should be reformed. I just don't have a solution, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep reading and I'm gonna keep talking to people about it.
Yeah. Well, we can have a talk about it another time. Actually, it is something I'd be interested in. Just shooting the shit over and seeing if we can come up with anything interesting.
Can we have transhumanism in direct democracy?
I don't really know much
hope
about
so, why not?
transhumanism other than like the conspiracy theories to chip us all. Because they're fun. So what's the deal with transhumanism?
So the first steps would be cybernetic augmentation.
Mandatory.
No, people could like voluntarily, the way they go to the store to upgrade their iPhones. So they go to the store to have a limb amputated and then replace it with a better one.
Just put it all in the cart: eggs, milk, prosthetic leg.
Cyber dicks now.
And eventually, the dream apparently is to take the human brain and put it in digital format.
So people can live forever.
Well, almost forever. Information is still susceptible to entropic heat death, so yeah, till the heat death of the universe.
Thing is, that's kind of pointless, though, isn't it? Because the brain still dies.
Yeah, but I mean, this is where
The
things
organ
get philosophically weird. This is where things get really philosophically weird because if you're a dualist and you think that mind and brain are different things, then technically your mind lives on in digital format even though your brain dies. But
well, a copy of the pattern of your thoughts lives on, sure, but that's not you because you're not thinking what the computer's calculating. Your calculating software isn't in the computer, so you.
Yeah, like I said, this all gets really philosophically weird because now you get into Platonic essentialism. It's like if I cut a piece of my skin off and then it grows back, am I still the same person? It's
but I mean,
So it's not as simple as Chappie.
It's a computer simulation of your brain pattern. It's not your brain.
For
example, the next thing you
simulation of your brain, then then the computer is basically able to generate an algorithm to the point where it replicates how your brain was able to perceive and to think and to generate its own content.
Okay, but let me ask you
That's
this.
basically what it is.
Let me ask you this: if you take a person and you remove one cell from them and replace it with an identical one, and take another cell from them, replace it with an identical one, over and over and over again, and this includes the brain. What you end up with is it still the same person?
Yeah, but that's not the argument we're having, because the brain and the computer, even if at the moment that they're separated, the brain pattern goes on the computer, and you've got the identical brain pattern on the person, suddenly the input becomes different. So any information my brain is taking in and storing, however the brain reconfigures itself to store information, from that point onwards it's different. So it's not you either way. It's not the same brain. It just becomes a different brain. Very, very tiny, imperceptible difference, I'm sure, but this will just continue to become a larger and larger difference, won't it?
But the you part, is it the brain or is it your thought patterns?
Well, again, they won't eventually end up being the same thought patterns.
Don't all of our cells eventually replace themselves at least once in our lifetime?
Yeah,
Every 7 years, basically.
And
Every 7 years. Are we a new person every 7 years?
Yeah.
Technically, yes, but
yeah, weird philosophical shit comes out of this transhumanist stuff. But Sargon, what if you sustain some kind of like head injury and your brain reconfigures itself?
Transhumanism. I'm not against it. I don't care. If it's mandatory, people can put whatever the fuck they want in their bodies. I don't care. I just don't think philosophically, if you upload an imprint of your brain into a computer, that means you live forever. That just means the imprint of your brain lives forever. You know, you die still. This is why I can never understand.
Well, it's your perception of yourself dies, the other perception of yourself that perceives itself, because at the point of fracture, it's going to think that all of your past life was its life.
Yeah, but you're not thinking it.
Well, you are, because the computer is generating those thoughts for you. Because
what is you?
You is the structure of the brain that's generating your personality and thoughts and holds your unique life experiences. Surely.
The structure. Okay.
Yeah, but if you copied all of that into a machine, then is it you that went into the machine, or is it you that was
a copy of your brain at that point? But as soon as that point is passed, different input will make it a different brain. The structure will no longer be exactly the same. Time will have passed, things will have happened. The structure of it becomes different to reconfigure how. I don't know how the brain works, but it must have.
But the same holds true over your lifetime. Your brain is going to look differently at age 40 than it did at age 4.
No, it's going to be a tiny imperceptible difference that I'm sure we won't even be able to measure, but it must be there. You know, it doesn't. You know, I'm sure that over maybe 50 years, you'd probably really have a hard time telling the brain and the simulation apart. But that doesn't make them the same. It just makes them very similar. And so you will still die. Or am I just being too literal with all of this?
Yes. The point is the fractured person that is your exact brain copy that went into the machine, to them, to that thing's perception, its life was totally linear through the biological into the technological. It would be one unbroken chain. So in essence, what you've done is just created two of you.
Yeah, you've cloned yourself, sure.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. But at that point, which clone is you?
The human one.
What is you?
If they were both human, if you were able to do that, would it? If you were able to 3D print a brain into a human body, would that, which one would then objectively be you?
Yeah, but if you were cloning, I mean, you'd do it chronologically, surely, wouldn't you? Which one existed first?
Whichever one wins the sword fight.
Whichever one existed in the frame that had less entropy.
But yeah, I see these philosophical arguments as being a bit sort of, oh well, what if? And so yeah, but it's not, It's
you know what I think? I think we need to ban transhumanism in universities until it can have a distinct curriculum.
Hey, as I said, I'm not against transhumanism. I'm not saying I would never have a cybernetic part or anything like that. I'm just saying, it would be like a religion to me. It'd be like believing God was going to take me to heaven. I would be like, well, I'm still going to be dead. It's not going to be me living on forever. It's going to be a very, very, accurate copy of me, maybe, but it's not going to be me. It's not going to be my brain, my thoughts, it'll just be a really good copy. So, again, I'm not against it. I would love to have, faster reactions or something, so I can jab people in the eye quicker or something, I don't know.
Just imagine drawing the short stick and having your thought pattern, uploaded to a Tumblr server.
Can someone just put a regular-ass eye in my face? Please? I have one eye that doesn't work well.
Oh yeah, Stargone, do you have an electric kettle?
Do I have what, sorry?
An electric kettle.
An electric kettle, yeah, why?
A teammate.
Okay.
Is that like a government issue? Is there regulation on
government-funded tea?
No, we were just talking about the evolution of I guess British tea. I don't know if it extends past Britain, like if just all of Europe engages.
If you upload tea into a computer, is it the same tea?
Well, does Europe have tea?
It was about tea-making technologies, like does Britain have superior kettles to the rest of the world? And yes, we do, because we have kettles that boil in 30 seconds or something like that. But apparently America, they do everything on their hob, and it takes like 7 or 8 minutes, because tea is a chore.
Fucking savages! What the hell is wrong?
We live in the fucking Stone Age.
We do it on our stove top.
Really? I read somewhere on Buzz.
They heat water on a hob.
Fucking primitives. No, we are advanced tea makers. The problem is also like the blends of tea, man. Teal, have you been to the continent recently? Their fucking tea is awful.
It is.
What?
They will label it as
And their tea section is minuscule.
Yeah, their selection is minuscule. They will label it as English breakfast tea, and it is the most vile, sour shit.
It's not English breakfast tea.
Can we compare
know what-
militaries now?
They'd be invading India and sorting out the tea. Jesus Christ.
So is this true? Because I saw this on BuzzFeed, and my whole family is running with it. I think most people I know believe this to be true. That it's unhealthy to, use electronic means or like to microwave water. Like it makes it more unhealthy.
No.
I don't.
That's
see
not
that.
true.
No.
Okay.
It'd be healthier.
All you're doing is applying energy to a molecule. It
Can we
doesn't
microwave
really matter
BuzzFeed?
where that comes from.
We actually do have electric kettles here.
Yeah, but they're probably expensive and
Yeah,
possible.
well, why is it in any piece of media or anything I see from America, they're always putting this kettle on a hob and then like waiting 10 fucking
What the
minutes?
fuck is a hob?
It's a
The
stovetop.
top of your stove. Jesus Christ!
Oh,
Oh,
God.
man.
What is
Isn't that
wrong
called a
with the world
range?
outside of the Empire? What happened?
Yeah, I have no idea what a hob was either until now.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
What happened? Did the British Empire just leave your shores and you stopped developing everything?
We changed our flag to a leaf and completely forgot about you.
Yeah.
See, this is why I believe that black people did used to be kangs and shit. I mean, this is the best that white culture has to offer. Tea innovation, really.
But this is what you do.
That
when you
guy
don't
T.
innovate any further.
Coincidence?
Kang.
I think
Well-
not.
Okay, you guys have fun on your little island, and we're gonna keep playing football as it actually is.
What, with your hands? Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really convinces me. We play it with our feet, so does the rest of the
I
world.
honestly think that we should compare militaries now. I think that'll
No, you see, we play football using a ball and feet, as opposed to an egg and your hands.
Yeah, but you call your stovetop a hob.
Because it's a
What
hob.
the fuck is
It's
wrong with
the
you?
old Saxon word for it, for fuck's sake.
It's a hobbit?
The last letter in your alphabet is fucked. It's Z.
Vernacular. They can't compare militaries. Half
No,
of their
no,
militaries
no,
are.
no. I'm happy
You see how they're dodging the question?
Half of their
Well,
militaries
how
are
they're dodging
military.
No. Let's talk about military spending because
Share an
as a
aircraft
American,
carrier with
I'm
France,
against
bitch.
military spending, especially as I'm forced to pay for it. What do you think, T?
Hold on, say that again.
As a libertarian, I'm against forced spending on the military that I don't want to pay for. I get no interaction with the military. What do you reckon?
Yeah. I agree. I think we should have more,
Oh,
private
fuck
mercenary
all of you.
teams. You don't need a new aircraft carrier, Vernaculus. Your stuff is fine.
No,
we don't need to rebuild the military
we need
again.
7 of them. Okay? I don't want to share one aircraft carrier with another nation. Okay?
Okay.
Because if they're about to declare war on us, they'll just be like, okay, wait till we have the aircraft carrier. Wait like another month.
We actually share an aircraft carrier with France, I think.
Yeah.
So, how far a aircraft carrier is going to retreat.
Yeah.
Does Canada have one?
I hope it's the front half, so it's being pushed along.
Yeah. Your
Oh,
aircraft
either-
carrier will just split in half.
Canada or the Forest. Do either of them have aircraft carriers?
What would Canada do with an aircraft carrier?
We'd bring an
have
army
enemies.
first.
Make more maple syrup.
Put refugees on it.
Now, we know what they do. They
Yeah,
use it to send planes over the top of other nations to apologize to them.
Sorry.
Everyone, man, our Trudeau was just apologizing last month for not letting in a few Sikh immigrants in like 1914.
I love the way that Canada's foreign policy always begins with Canada apologized for.
And I think right now we've got like a bunch of Armenian and Turks protesting outside our parliament. I don't know. There's going to be an apology soon, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't do the Armenian genocide, but there's going to be an apology soon.
Oh dear, jeez. What is going on with Trudeau? Is he like literally as feminist as the clips we see on YouTube make him seem, or is it
I
just?
think it's exaggerated.
You think so? What's the deal, Lauren?
I mean, I don't know, man. He puts on a good act. He's like an Obama. He's like a populist. He's got the nice hair. He's a drama teacher. Knows how to put on the act. says feminism is popular right now, right? He just repeats the slogan. I doubt he's actually like a full-fledged feminist. He's probably, I don't know, do you guys know Jian Ghomeshi?
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably like a Jian Ghomeshi who just played the role of the feminist to get popular in university, played the social justice, nerdy kind of cuck guy to get all the ladies. And it worked. It worked. People love the act. They love the act here in Canada. They think he's great. Whatever I saw people on my Facebook that I like know from high school and stuff that were uploading the video of him doing quantum mechanics and saying it's 2016, and they were like, "This is so beautiful. I love that our prime minister is such a nerd."
I love that he can read a calendar. Yeah, me too. To be fair, I'm shit at reading calendar.
It works.
Do you guys think that there's? Go ahead, Carter.
Sorry, I'm trying to wrap my head around the cuck who gets all the ladies.
Yeah.
What?
You know what? This is the first time Canada has been on the map, and all these other countries, your freaking countries, the States and the UK, keep publishing articles about him, like, the Canadian Prime Minister is just so hot. Look at his hair. Here's 10 photos of the Canadian Prime Minister doing adorable things. And no one ever cared about us before.
Yeah, just like, look, yes, I've had a wank over it. Now, you know, why is he giving me a feminist sermon? You know, why do I have logic to go, mate, please can you cover this? This is shit. This is bullshit.
Well, that's why you mute him before you apply the lube.
Yeah.
Is there any political atmosphere in current year that isn't fucked right now? Like any nation?
I'm trying to think of one.
There's got to be one, right?
Well, I was thinking about this the other day, right? And I'm wondering how much of this is just the logical conclusion of the internet, you know? Because now people can easily, and every day, all the time, congregate with only people they agree with if they want. And they can block all dissent, and they can just not visit any kind of media sites. Everyone gets their media from their phone now, so they can literally not see things that they don't want to see. And before you've ever had that, so you've always had... I think this is why it's becoming more extreme, you know? And I think the libertarians are actually a really good example of this, man. I mean, I remember like a year or two ago or something, you know, talking to libertarians, thinking, okay, they seem quite cool. Yeah, okay, I mean, I don't think the state is the great Satan or anything, but I mean, if you look at America, there's definitely the argument that the government has fucking run out of control and needs to be reined in, absolutely. But that's not true in like Latvia, you know. It's not just the state. The state's actually really helpful in some people, you know, and stuff like that. So it's like, you know, I don't see the thing. The state is like this monolithic, you know, patriarchal style, like patriarchy, you know, which is how libertarians seem to be increasingly seeing it. Any kind of government intervention is bad, even if it's stuff they already do. And
I don't think so.
I think they are, man.
I think libertarians also see the state as a tool. It's just that people are assholes and everyone misuses the tool.
Yeah, but the thing is, then I think that's used as justification to treat the state as a blanket evil, just as, you know, like a feminist treats an MRA. You know, I mean, I watched a video response to you talking about me, and the guy called me a statist, and I swear to God, he may as well have called me cisgender.
Status has become a buzzword. It absolutely has.
And
I was doing a speech with Walter Block, and there was some guy who got drunk at the back that was screaming status the entire time, like a foaming feminist, and they actually had to pull him out of the bar because he was just like, status everywhere.
And
that's letting us know
not,
about
against the state or anything.
Rebels headquarters.
So I think libertarianism is one of those things that I've noticed, definitely. And it's genuinely a cause of concern. Because, I mean, I've heard some weird stuff coming out of libertarians, man, like really hardcore libertarians. And it's just
I think there's also a confusion between anarchists and libertarians. You're having more anarchists call themselves libertarians now that just want no government
all the crazy stuff
really
you're hearing,
confusing things.
All the crazy stuff you're hearing, Stargone, is probably coming from the minarchists.
I don't even know what a minarchist is, mate.
The minarchists are on the far right. The anarchists are on the left.
Well, the ANCOMs.
Well, I think
the traditional anarchists.
Doesn't make sense to me.
I thought minarchist was supposed to be like there are only like a few things that government can do, like sort of like the military is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's basically really
libertarian.
small government.
Yeah,
That's all it really is.
Mm-hmm.
When I first called myself a libertarian. I was just like, yeah, just necessary things the government needs to do. That sounds pretty good, right? And then I got more into it, and there's like 10,000 different things to call yourselves, and most libertarians want no government, I found, at least.
And you're finally learning that roads are theft.
Roads are poisoning our water supply, guys.
Yeah, the thing, though, a lot of them do seem to want absolutely zero government, which is the logical conclusion of an ideology that takes the government as being the problem. Because, you know, if that's what you think, well, then eventually you're going to see enough things that the government has done to think, well, there's no justification for any of this, because I've already established that government is the problem, and now it's just doing things that are automatically bad. You know, and so it's one of these things where I'm genuinely concerned about where libertarians are going, because, and also it's the hostility to criticism as well, and there are definitely more and more that are becoming more and more emotionally invested in this, and it's just, I'm not even thinking it's necessarily like the fault of anyone. It's just, I think this is what happens when you spend time in closed communities, talking to mostly people who agree with you, and I think the SJWs do it. I think, you know, the various sort of political factions do it, and this is why people are like, oh my god, you've got loads of conservatives on your channel. And it's like, well, I don't think I'm doing it. You know, I've got loads of liberals, loads of conservatives, libertarians, you know, all sorts of different people. I get messages from fucking fundamentalist Christians who are concerned about SJWs and stuff, you know, and I try not to put a definitive political slant on it. I am a liberal, obviously, blah blah blah, but you know, I try to be as objective as possible, and I think that a lot of these communities don't do this, and not doing this is, I think, to their detriment, and I think it's giving them a warped worldview. Just to think about, I guess.
Yes, they just came out with an article saying that Trudeau's political quantum computing answer was a setup. Let's see.
Unsurprising that Trudeau wasn't a quantum fucking physicist.
I mean, I'm shocked.
He has the hair for it.
Okay, surprise.
I'm gonna get Razor Fist in.
Yeah, I know a fake when I see it.
Yeah. According to Canadian political blogger J.J. McCullough, it was absolutely not real. In fact, it was completely staged and perhaps a little hyperbolic. North Koreanification of Canadian political reporting, he calls it.
Yeah.
It's very true.
There are lots of similar things going on in the States. I mean, normally I don't look to the UK for things, but if there's one thing I enjoy about the UK's political system, it's Prime Minister's questions. I really, really enjoy that. I think something like that could be useful in the States.
I've got to say, I do. People in Britain, a lot of people in Britain find it quite uncouth. You know, they think, well, why are they acting like that? But I actually really like the cut and thrust of it, and just the arguments in Parliament.
There are lots of kind of, you know, interpenetration of opposites going on.
Yeah. Different than like general like press secretaries.
Sorry, what was that?
I was saying, is it different than like general press secretaries that we have in the States, kind of ridiculous?
Yeah. Everything here is filtered through a press secretary, or there's sort of, you know, they're not even debates. Like certain rules of certain political debates are like the candidates are not allowed to address each other. I mean, it's not even a debate at that point. It's just, hey, answer these questions as you would answer them in secession.
Yeah, but that's like you do a lot on this, and I do completely agree with you. That's the media making sure they can keep their fucking press passes, and then taking all of this information in uncritically, not bothering to examine it, and just reporting it, and then clocking off.
Yeah, it's annoying.
It's the idea of press passes kind of pisses me off, to be honest. It's like, you know, this.
What? I'm not good enough.
Yeah, basically. You know, should taxpayers not just be able to ask these questions from a department and get them?
Yeah.
I think I did a video about this. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, hey man, how's it going?
Hello.
This is Razor Fist. If anyone doesn't know, he runs a channel called The Rageaholic, and he does really fucking spectacular rants. I'm a huge fan. Yeah, how's it going, dude? I haven't spoken to you in ages.
Doing fantastic. I've been busy about the last 9.5 billion times he's linked me to one of these, so I figured maybe I should give it a whirl.
So, what do you reckon? What do you reckon to this petition?
To get SJWs, to get social justice out of colleges, you mean?
Well, to get it reformed at least.
Reform. Here's my question. It seems kind of nebulous. How would it even be implemented? I apologize if we've already addressed this.
No, not at all. Well, the petition itself isn't an authoritarian dictate. It's a grassroots petition, and it's really just like a statement of interest for whoever signs it. Say, I'm interested in having a conversation about the reform of social justice. This is my position. I want it reformed. So it's not proposing solutions. It's to make sure that they are aware that there is a large groundswell of support for the idea of reform.
Yeah, as a statement of intent, I mean, why would anyone have an issue with it? There's no obvious specificity to it, so I see no harm in supporting it. Plus, I mean, did I tell you? I told you in the one stream that we did, I believe, that I went to journalism school and ultimately left as a result of one of my professors essentially telling me I had handed them a report. I'm sure I told you this. I handed them.
You did tell me, but what? Tell it again, man, because I think it's really pertinent now, actually.
Yeah, so I was going to get into broadcasting. I was actually just looking to get into radio, but in order to do that, you had to go through the standard journalism school milieu, and of course we have a really, really good, big, respected journalism school here in Arizona. So I went ahead and attended, and I was accepted, and it was great initially. And then we wound up we were actually started getting into the nuts and bolts of composing articles. And this was supposed to be just coverage of an incident. And I think it had something to do with irrigation, of all things. Like, of all the things to slant politically, irrigation ditches tend to be on the lower end of the spectrum for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be able to interpret how that could be a political issue.
I know, right? And so, but there was a community component and so forth, and so the professor started to try, and it seemed like they were inching us toward bias in some way. And I understand they wanted a little bit of a slant, they wanted a little bit of a sizzle, and that was the exercise. So I'm like, okay, fine. I hand this thing to them, and they say it's not quite. It doesn't have enough of a voice. They use very clever terminology, but it doesn't have its own voice. And so I'm like, okay. I was trying to be really objective. Maybe I wound up making it a little milquetoast. So I hand him the second one, and I of course put my voice, which politically is not just right of center; it's right of right. And so he instantly is like, what is this exactly? I'm like, well, you asked me to have more of a voice. It's like, no, and here's where literally they just laid the cards out on the table. It was really blatant. It's like, if you're going to slant news, you should always slant it to the left. And then they proceeded, and I literally didn't hear anything after that, and they went on at some length about exactly why that is. But I didn't hear a word after that. That was literally from that point on, I was like, wow, I really shouldn't be here at all. This is not somewhere I want to be. And
on the plus side, he just made the argument for objectivity there, didn't he?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Initially, I handed them an objective piece of journalism, and it wound up being turned down for fairly absurd reasons, in my opinion. Look, they had their own reasons. It sounded like mental gymnastics from what I remember, but it was something to the effect of palatability and the populace, or what. It's like, I don't understand how it's any more palatable to slant your news in one direction than the other. It's still slanted.
Yeah, it's just who it is palatable to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I would much rather see objective journalism, so I could interpret it as I wanted, rather than getting someone else's interpretation and then trying to pick out the objective news, which is what I have to do with the fucking Guardian constantly. They do reporting, they accurately report the facts, but it's so buried under layers of progressive bullshit that it's a lot of the time just so much hard work to do. It pisses me off.
Yeah, and if that was, and just to make one last point, if that was like one of the more respected journalism schools in the entire country, and of course the U.S. is fairly major as countries go, then what does that say about sort of the institution of journalism and how it's sort of starting at the beginning and sort of bleeding out into all of these publications?
No,
do you think that
says a damn lot.
Like, couldn't that be done in the sense of, like, in regards to this petition, like, how the Guardian, they do report facts, but, they bury it under all the SJW progressive bullshit, couldn't that be done just as willingly in a response to this petition, maybe? Where they present the facts, but they come back with, all the, overlaying bullshit and,
Yeah,
their opinions and everything like that.
Framing the issue, they call it. No, I just don't understand what I've often wondered, and I'm not sure if you guys have gotten into this because I've only been listening for about the last hour. Is why exactly colleges why professors, because it all comes back to the professors, as we all know.
Yeah.
Why they specifically, it's not even that it's left, right, or center. Never mind the political slants. Why are these people so didactic in their approach? Why do they have to proselytize? Why do they feel the compulsion to, rather than merely educate?
Because a lot of them are interpretivists. In the social sciences especially, this is part of their MO. They don't believe that objectivity is an actual thing. They think that anybody who claims to have objectivity, and any culture in which something is considered to be objective, that's the culture's dominant demographics perspective, as opposed to being actually objective. So, if somebody says, okay, here's the objective, here are the rational facts, one of these interpretivists would say, okay, this is not actually objective. This is just, you were raised in a culture where you were told that your perspective is objective. As a white person, as a white male, your perspective you were taught is the correct one, and you need to unlearn that. There is no objectivity.
Basically, social justice thetans.
Did I tell you about the professor out here that I wound up being in his philosophy class, and he was part of a national scandal as a result of sort of propagandizing his student body, for lack of a better term. Did I ever tell you that, Sargon? I can't.
You didn't. Go ahead, man.
Okay, so this guy by the name of, you can actually look him up. He's named Lee Carter, and he summers in Canada for Lauren over there. I think he might actually teach out there now, but he's a philosophy professor, and he's written a number of books. And I went to a college out here in Glendale, where he was, I think he was actually the head of the philosophy department, which tells you a bit, because this was after the controversy in question. So, okay, it's 2003, 2004-ish, and he's just a philosophy professor at that point. He's not doing anything concerning politics. And he makes the statement that 9/11 was justified because we bombed other countries, which is, okay, all right, whatever, that's offensive, whatever, but really the point is, it's a philosophy class. How did we even get on this subject? Right? And so someone is, as many students are wont to do, decides to record the lecture. And they were offended by it, like many people were, and sends it off to a local conservative talk station. And it was like a national controversy. It was a huge deal. And instead, you would think, okay, the college hears that their philosophy professor is, as I've said before, he's essentially proselytizing from behind a teacher's desk. Mm-hmm. They would enact some sort of disciplinary action of some kind. They not only don't discipline him, he's not suspended, he's not fired, they promote him to the head of the philosophy department, and then they print some kind of statement in repudiation of the talk station that carried the clip of him saying that 9/11 was justified or something to that effect. I think there was more to this statement, but it was a huge deal, and he tells us this the first
I remember
day of
seeing
class. Yeah, he tells us this the first day of class, and it was hilarious because from that point on, I had a few arguments with him already by that point. It's 30 minutes into class he tells us this.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And I'm like, oh, so these weren't just minor disagreements. This is going to be all year. Okay, this is going to be fun. So from that point on, the entire course degenerated into the Razor Fist versus Professor Carter hour. And And I felt bad because every time I would open my mouth, people would roll their eyes, and I couldn't like. I felt bad.
That sounds like a lot of fun to me. I'd do exactly the same. I'd be like, well, now that we're talking.
Well, yeah, and the coolest part about it was, I'm raising my hand and objecting to various things that he's saying, just on a socio-political level at first, and then it turns into, a bunch of other people actually begin to agree with me, and so I wound up not having to do it. It turned into like half the class versus Professor Carter.
That's good, though. At least people are actually capable of resisting this bullshit. But you shouldn't have to be doing this. This is ridiculous. They shouldn't just be allowed to just talk and like give their rampant, unchecked biases. It's absurd. Yeah. There has to be some kind of regulation. Sorry, T.
Oh my!
One day, Sargon, it's a work in progress.
Well, hey, T. In credit of the free market of ideas kicked his ideas up and down the rest of the free market. You know what I mean? Like we actually got a good half of the class to openly defy him and debate with him on a regular basis. So the free market does work.
I'll take that.
I'm not saying
it's a win.
For whom does free market work, though?
We're nothing here if not diplomatic.
So, Sargon, did you take a look at this counter petition to suspend your YouTube channel?
I didn't realize I was important enough to warrant a petition. That's very, very kind.
Hey, I'm on it too.
Hey.
Now you, Vernaculus, and Spinosaurus can.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Including those guys as well. No, that's a very important
Are you implying something?
No.
Oh, don't put me on a petition with that.
Yeah, I guess when I start receiving taxpayer money, I'll start paying attention to it. That sounds like something I'll get on when I get paid by the government.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to suspend their accounts?
I'm afraid not, no.
No.
Don't worry, I'm not expecting them to suspend any social justice either, so...
Wait,
I'm
hold
expecting
on.
resistance, obviously.
Can I read it?
Go ahead.
These YouTubers have become scientifically illiterate, logically unsound, deeply bigoted, and openly supremacist. These YouTubers are indoctrinating young people into a pseudo-scientific cult behind closed doors that's doing damage to their health, education, and future.
Oh boy.
They become a victim of their own good intentions, and in the desperate attempt to make the world better for some, they are creating a world better for none. They have become another group fit only to pave the road to hell. So it's time to turn around and choose another path that is concerned with reason, science, and improving the lives of every human. To clarify, we're calling for these accounts to be temporarily suspended. What follows up for debate is up for debate, but as it stands now, they're causing far more harm than good, and their channels must be halted and reassessed.
I really hope that was made by someone from Gamer Ghazi.
No,
Vernaculus, why didn't you read that with some 70s porn music in the background?
Oh, man. I wish I had some on hand.
Man, I think you hire these people for your marketing department, Sargon, or I don't think you can make yourself sound any cooler.
Yeah.
Craig, do you mind hopping out, mate?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me on.
We love you.
I'm more than happy to get, opinions of people. Yes, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what other objections might be raised? I mean, what are the SJWs likely to say?
That
We're
is
all bigots, I
censorship.
guess.
They're going to freak the fuck out if it.
Well, the
if
first
anyone
thing
takes it anywhere seriously.
the first thing that must come to your mind when considering an SJW's objection is Nazis. Somehow incorporate Nazis.
And that's fine though, because we can literally just point at Melissa Click and say, "There's the Nazi."
I figured the basis of all the SJW criticisms were pretty much raised or circulates around the same ones that Willie Bumblebee and Jim, is it, has?
I don't know what his surname was. The husband's name was, but yeah. You think they'll be like those?
I have a real question, though. Without social justice classes, how are men going to know not to rape people?
Yeah, they're not. It's going to be a freaking epidemic.
This is a serious thing we need to address. The market will fix it.
Yeah,
This petition is legitimizing rape culture.
Yeah, I was walking around, I was a raping fool. I was just raping people left and right, and I was, went to one of those classes. I'm like, oh, that's what that is. God, you're not supposed to put it in them. God damn it.
I mean,
you don't
when I
look
think
like
of
you're
the
from
world,
Somalia either. It's amazing.
It's crazy.
Seriously, a lot of the thing with the European migrant crisis really does piss me off because people forget that places that these guys are coming from literally don't view rape the way that we do in the West. I mean, they literally don't think that it's the man's fault if they rape someone and then they stone the woman, and it's just like, okay. I mean,
Stop being culturally intolerant.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm being a complete cultural bigot here, but I mean, it's one of those things where you've got to say, right, we've got to teach them not to rape. It's like, well, okay, maybe in this case, you actually do need to teach someone not to rape because they literally don't know that what you're saying is wrong. Fucked up.
But that's why I don't believe that it's going to be possible to actually negotiate with these people. Because now you have people, what was the guy? Where was he from? That apologized for being raped by.
Oh, the Swedish cuck.
Yeah, the Swedish guy that said he felt guilty.
My new favorite story out of Canada is we just found out one of our greatest basketball stars here was actually a 29-year-old refugee pretending to be in grade 11. Yeah.
Classic Canada.
He stunned high school basketball fans with his prowess on the court. His 6'9", 202-pound frame towering over the other players.
Fucking hell, man.
Wait a second, how old are you? I'm in 11th grade.
He said he was a teenage refugee from South Sudan. And he's actually a 29-year-old man. That is amazing. Of course it's in Ontario.
What, did they catch on around the time his balls dropped? Like, how does that even happen? Did they lift his skirt?
Well, didn't they say in Germany, let them in as kids as long as they look like they're under 40? That's what they were saying to the workers. Yeah. Apparently we're implementing that in Canada too now. Sorry?
I was saying, did he at least get you guys in the playoffs?
Let's see.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
How's it going? Yeah, good man. How are you?
Pretty good. Has been an interesting stream going on here.
What do you make of the whole situation?
Oh my god.
I'm just dumbfounded. I mean, come on. There are people paying like thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands to just go become activists. I mean, this is the future. This is the life they're building, and they're going to spend all that money to just learn how to do Twitter?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, taking the Bernie Sanders
there are courses where Twitter activism is like a credit.
I know. Boy. That's unbelievable.
Go on, T. What were you saying?
Oh, no, I was just saying they're taking the Bernie Sanders career path.
Right.
Basically, yeah.
They're going to become a Muppet? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's unfair. It's not fair to call him a Muppet because not even Elmo is that red.
The thing is, though, I probably wouldn't give a fuck if they would just shut up and fuck off. If they weren't like annoying everyone everywhere with stuff like, oh, you know what we should do? Presume guilt. It's like, we're not going to do that. That's not going to happen. Shut up and go away. Why are you even talking? Like people, and the entitlement of them as well. It's like, you're oppressing me. It's like, well, if I'm oppressing you, shut up. I don't care if you're being fucking oppressed, for fuck's sake, if I'm oppressing you. Why would you think I would care if I am the oppressor?
And the thing that I do appreciate in this petition that I think should actually be spread out to more, areas, including like people's businesses and things, is that a lot of people, like you said, Sark, a lot of people are scared, to speak out against this. Like online, sure, but an actual place of business, you're scared you're going to get fired. You're scared someone's going to file a harassment suit. You're scared you're going to get thrown off a campus or kicked out of the class. And I think that fear and that complacency in the fear of the actual punishment that could ensue actually leads towards the proliferation of this type of SJW cult mentality.
I think that's why they operate like sharks, wolves. They home together, and like with the kid with the dreadlocks, there was two of them to him. I think they know that it gives them extra influence if they do this.
Yeah, that was horrible. I just wish that guy didn't look like such a dork.
Yeah, but he's, I don't care if he looks like a dork. He doesn't deserve to have some fucking...
Oh, no, of course not, of course not.
Yeah, he did look like a dork. I mean, he looks like the sort of guy I'd probably just roll my eyes and go, oh, fucking hell. You
remind me of the type of guy that you could get Xanax from, probably on Thursday.
Yeah.
Why are you being racist against the Greeks?
Well, how about this latest thing that every white person is racist? Isn't that funny?
Well, yeah, exactly. If I'm a racist, why would I care that I was a racist?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's only people who are not racist are going to care that they're getting called.
God damn it! If only white people could be poor, I could understand their experience a little more and be less racist. But sadly,
well,
you guys will never understand.
I'm sorry, but you guys just should have more carefully considered your decision to be born white.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a bad call, huh?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I bought into all the privilege. I was like, well, given the option.
I actually checked the wrong box. It was a clerical error.
Isn't that how Mormonism works? Am I crazy? That's how Mormonism works, right? You get to choose your family.
I'm not entirely sure, actually.
That rings a bell.
Does that not speak something deeply Freudian about SJWs, though, that they are kind of on a subconscious level identifying with Mormon dogma?
Well, I think it's the sort of cult mentality. I really do. It's the looking for a source of emotional security away from your family and friends. And for an ideal. This was what this psychiatrist from California was saying. He was, he wrote a book on cults and how they work, and it's not crazy loons who join cults. It's people who are looking for security and happiness and safety, and they're not finding it in other places, and they can't find it in themselves. So someone who's generally charismatic but always exerts power over them, and it gives them, the feeling of security. And this is how you end up with perfectly rational, normal people marching people into death camps and stuff.
And this is the perfect age. This is the perfect age to get us, because this is when we have all of our existential identity issues and all that bullshit.
Exactly, and it's when they're listening as well. You go into a class, you expect to be taught something that's true. That you're going to need to know to pass a test, that you're going to use to get your degree, and so you're taking it in as much as possible, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think that can also account for some of the uptick in more youthful. I hesitate to call it youthful conservatism, but there is a certain uptick on the right among younger people, late teens, early 20s, college age. And I think that has to do with the fact that that's the age where you're looking to differentiate yourself from authority figures. You need to become your own person.
Yeah.
And so they're entering a college where all the authority figures are not only left, but describedly so, and deeply proselytic and such. And they've also got their parents in many cases. A lot of baby boomers are more Democratic than they are Republican. So their parents are more left, and all their authority figures are left. Is it any wonder they're beginning to bridle at these conventional structures of education?
Yeah, this is without a doubt the cause of the alt-right, the rise of it as well. Especially as they are broadly identitarian. They're happy to accept the context and frame of the conversation from the SJWs. White people are bad. They go, well, no, white people are good. And I'm not prepared to discuss whether white people as a group are good or bad, because it's not a frame that accurately represents reality. You can't judge like that,
So do you think the only response to that would be to try and be the better cult? If everyone's looking for a cult?
Well, I think that we can identify it.
I think that we just need to get rid of identity politics.
Yeah, that'd be a good start.
Yeah. Right. When I went to school, we actually got to see this, the Wave documentary. They showed us this as a sort of warning. Don't fall into this cult mentality. I thought that was a pretty good thing to do for a school.
I think it's a fantastic. I put it in This Week in Stupid, the description of it. Because it's based on the 1967 classroom experiment done by some young professor.
Exactly.
And Yeah, and it literally he was doing it to demonstrate how Nazism can rise, and it really started getting out of his control, and he had to call an end to it. And it's just like there we go. And that's a great example, and that's pretty much what SJWs are doing. They've got their own little insignias with the dyed hair and the fucking stupid, and the glasses, for fuck's sake, man. they've got their own sort of languages. They've got their own sort of, and the language becomes like a secret handshake. They go, well, all white people are racist, and they go, oh yeah, of course. It's it's sort of a shibboleth to find out.
Yeah, I mean, come on, not even Unitarians have a uniform. SJWs do.
Yeah.
What the hell?
And they're incredibly tribal. They are authoritarian as anything. They're happy. They go out there. They try to censor people. That's what they do. And they are incredibly emotional. They are so emotionally invested in social justice, and it's like there is no way of describing this other than a cult. It hits all the fucking points perfectly. It's fucking terrifying. And then you've got the teachers who don't want you to watch what they're doing. They don't want you to see what they're saying. And it's like, okay, you're the cult leaders then. Now we have a complete picture of the cult of social justice. Thank you very much. Now we have to stop it. It's,
Yeah, it sort of ties in with that Stanford experiment as well.
Yeah, the Milgram experiment. Yeah, my dad's listening to the stream and he sent me that on Facebook. Right.
Milgram was separate, I think. Milgram was the one with It was the one with the electric shocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, the Stanford prison experiment, the Milgram. Yeah, electric shock.
Yeah. Same idea though.
But yeah, it's the same principle, just with a small amount of authority and gentle encouragement, people will do ridiculous things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's one of the largest sort of cult mass murder incidents in history? It's Jonestown.
Waco,
I mean, if you look into Jonestown, that wasn't that wasn't even all that religious of a group. It was really more of a political one, and it was based out of San Francisco. And Jim Jones was even appointed to the head, actually illegally. He circumnavigated the law to do this. He appointed Jim Jones the head of the San Francisco Housing Commission. And Jim Jones spoke at Jimmy Carter's political events and was friends with Rosalind Carter and the governor. I think the current governor of California, Jerry Brown, was really good buddies with Jim Jones.
Is that the one who died when he went down there?
No, that was Senator Ryan. I wish.
Okay.
No, Jerry Brown, unfortunately, is gainfully elected. But yeah, so they went down to Jonestown and whatever, and that was when it went crazy. But basically, what happened in San Francisco was there were some sort of sex abuse allegations going on, and so once that happened, that's why he fled to Guyana or whatever. But it was not a right wing cult. It was very, very far left. It was kind of associated with the hippie movement.
Yeah, I don't think any political leaning is immune from this kind of behavior, and that's what this guy was saying in his book. Apparently, he's it's anyone could do it. You just have to become emotionally invested and isolationist.
Yeah, it would be a mistake to sort of say this could only happen to left-wing people.
Of course, I mean there have been right-wing cults,
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think it's time to start calling it what it is, and it's time to start telling people, look, this is a genuine problem. It's...
For sure.
I'm afraid, though, if we express it in those terms, if we call it a cult, we could be accused of alarmism.
Well, I'd like to. I maybe it's worth contacting psychiatrists or something. Because the guy who did this was a psychiatrist, so I assume they're the sort of people who would be the sort of people to talk to about what a cult looks like. I'm no expert. I'm just going on what they say.
But you didn't actually put cult in your petition, right?
I think I did call it a cult. Because
oh, you did?
I think it fits the definition. Well, no, it fits the definition. I think it does. But I mean,
I think I also called them wieners too. I think there were a few insults thrown in there.
Yeah, but a cult is not just an insult. It's also an accurate description of methodology, isn't it? I mean, like,
no, it is. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. Yeah, I probably should have called them a bunch of bellends as well, but. I think since there are lots of viewers on the stream, there's a lady called Janet Fiamengo that you may probably already know. Does anyone here know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I know she is.
Yeah.
Christine Hoff Sommers type.
Yeah. Christine Hoff Sommers type. She used to be a feminist, but now does she bill herself as an MRA or an anti-feminist?
Who'd you say again?
Does she call herself an MRA and an anti-feminist or anything?
I'm not saying who are you referring to?
Janice Fiamengo.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't
Greenfield,
watched that
or is
much
it
of her
different?
stuff.
But she campaigns against feminism in universities, and she has recently apparently called for it to stop. And so might be worth getting in contact with her at some point, I think, for myself. Actually.
Haven't they no platformed her? That's weird.
Well, they've tried. That's the thing. There are lots of videos going around of her. I mean, you'll see them with hundreds of thousands of views, where she's trying to teach a class, and you can hear just the feminists just chanting outside and pulling fire alarms and stuff.
No.
It's like, this is the mark of a totalitarian ideology, and they're chanting, "This is hate" or something. It's like, who are you talking about?
Projection.
Yeah, exactly. You're projecting all over her. She's trying to, just get on and talk, and yeah, exactly. And she's recently called for this as well. So I think it might be worth getting in contact with her.
Yeah. I mean, you've had all sorts of people on your show, so I'm sure they'll be willing to come on.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'd probably get in contact with her. But I noticed Milo just tweeted it out as well. And Breitbart have got an article on it, so that's good.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that's a very good start. Thank you again, Breitbart.
All right.
So yeah, is there anything else anyone wanted
Excellent.
to
Now
do
there's a
earlier?
slight lull. I'm actually just going to quickly sneak off because I've actually got shit to do tomorrow.
No
So
worries.
it's been fun, Sargon. Thank you for having me on, and
Thank you.
enjoy the rest of your discussion, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, likewise. I think I got to get going too.
That's okay. Well, I was actually going to say, since we seem to have exhausted the conversation,
Yeah.
I'll end the stream there.
All right.
But yeah,
Nice
so
meeting you all.
yeah, thank you all for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been really good getting everyone's different opinion and being able to hash them out. I think it's been really productive, and it's been fun when we just shitposted as well.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No
That
problem.
was great.
All right, take care, everyone.